Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I see a few of you are up in arms, perhaps. Do not worry. I do not blame the mods. Can get busy sometimes, so it'd be like that. I don't mind at all. Hi, Casual KJ. Thank you for the super chat, and also, I did promise that I would say thank you for the super chat that was sent last night when I was going to bed, and definitely not being held hostage, so thank you for that super chat as well that you sent. Hello, 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 everybody. How is everyone's night going? Are you guys ready? Are you ready, Freddy? I mean, you're not Freddy, but, you know, ready in general, period. It's a Blaze night. It is a Blaze night. We're gonna be doing a lot of learning today on Blaze night. Who sent super chat yesterday? Quite a few people did, but the only one that I did not read was Casual KJ's, where he said, good night. And it is in fact not night now, so. Yeah, cosplay, yippee! I wonder how many of you in here, if with a show of hands, may or may not be interested in cosplay. And I will be teaching, by the way, I will be teaching cosplay for no matter who. It does not matter what gender you are. You are going to get some use out of this if you are new to cosplay. I'm going to be teaching about how to do cosplay for both male and female characters. So it won't be just for men and it won't be just for women. Have a passing interest. Cosplayers seem to have fun. I mean, I enjoy it, so I can definitely say it is something for the event. And animal cosplay, I unfortunately, I do not have really a lot of experience in that, but I do know how to make, like, the goat shoes, like if you were to do Shippo from Inuyasha, I would know how to make those types of feet. I guess that was a bit of a shortcoming. I'll talk about that, but I don't have any images for it in my PowerPoint because I completely forgot about that, actually, because I very rarely cosplay characters that have I rarely cosplay like cat girls or anything like that, so I don't actually deal with a lot of like making ears and stuff, but I can give tips on that as well if you'd like. These are just basic to start to get into stuff, but you guys can for sure ask as many questions as you would like. I'll try to answer them along the way, but otherwise I would say if I don't answer your question when you ask it, like in chat at the time, write it down, save it for the end of stream, where I will definitely read all of your guys' questions and answer as many as I can in the easiest way that I can, because this is beginner friendly. It's trying to be beginner friendly. This is just kind of like what I think you need to get started with in different areas. So, yeah. Cat girl Blaze aware. Not here. Not here. Cosplaying sounds too intimidating. I've always had fun. Isn't Blaze cosplay god tier? See, that's the funny part. We will actually be going over how all of the things we learned would attribute into making your own Blaze cosplay. So that is very fun, you know? I mean, at least I hope that you will enjoy that. Can I cosplay as Blaze if I'm a male? You can cosplay as me no matter who you are, no matter what you are. You can, you know, you can change my design. You can be male Blaze. You could be female Blaze. You could be any Blaze. I don't mind. I think part of the fun of cosplay is changing it to what you believe. One of the fun parts is about cosplay is it doesn't matter what you look like or anything. You can cosplay. So if someone has told you that you can't cosplay because of any particular reason, spit in their face, kill them. Their opinion doesn't matter. Because you truly, anyone can cosplay as long as you are having fun. That is all that matters at the end of the day. 100%. Can we cosplay the AN Project HR representative? Maybe? I don't know. Alright, who is ready to get into the learning? Who's ready to get into the learning? So, let's start it off. So, first and foremost, we are going to go from top to bottom, alright? We're gonna go from top to bottom, so we're gonna start with wigs. Alright? We're starting with wigs. Despite what anyone might tell you, wigs do not have to be monumentally expensive. For the most part, if a wig is unstyled, so for example, if a wig, like, is just long hair, right? If you just have long hair or short hair, there's no real styling to it. Like, specifically, like, ponytails. Ponytails are when things can get a bit more complicated. There are clip-in ponytails that you can get. You'll see, as you look at a lot of wigs, that is how it is. They're expensive wigs? Yes, we'll talk about those different types of wigs. I realized that I did not make a graphic for that, and I don't know why I didn't make a graphic for that. I kind of just forgot. So... but you can kind of look up on the side if you'd really like to. So, Amazon is a good place to get wigs that do not require a lot of styling. And the reason for this is most Amazon wigs, admittedly, are not going to have a lot of wefts. And wefts are the parts of the wig that actually has the hair on them. And if you do not have a lot of wefts, if you try to style this wig, for example, spiking it or putting it up in a high ponytail, those sorts of things, the wefts will be, if you do not have a lot of wefts in your wig, you'll be able to see right through it and you'll be able to see your wig cap underneath. Also, very important note, when you're wearing a wig, I do not care no matter how short your hair is, unless you are legitimately bald, wear a wig cap, okay? Because you don't want your actual hair poking out at any point. You want to wear a wig cap, all right? And personally, you'll see with a lot of these are, especially with, like, wigs, outfits, and, makeup, these are actually things that I have used. So these are personal recommendations. And first and foremost, for wigs, again, that do not require a lot of styling, Map of Beauty is the brand on Amazon that has a lot of different colors, and it comes in a lot of different lengths, and it's quite good. It's quite good. At least I believe so. If you're looking for something simple. So let's say, I don't know, you're cosplaying as Power from Chainsaw Man. Okay, Power's hair from Chainsaw Man is not very complicated. It is literally just a long wig. Do not spend a ton of money on that wig unless you don't want to dye it. You know, if you want to get a very specific color and you want, like, the limited edition, most perfect Power wig, sure, buy it somewhere else. But in general, a wig from Amazon will do just fine. It will do just fine. All right. Next, a wig cap, I assume, is like a bald cap? No. So, a bald cap, for a bald cap, you actually have to, like, gel down your hair, and then you have to place something over it and it makes you look bald. A wig cap is like what you would, it's closer to what you would see like a lunch lady wearing. It's netted, and it is not as restrictive as a bald cap. You can wear a bald cap. I do know some people that do wear bald caps, and the reason for that is because they have a lace front wig. So the three or four main types of wigs that you're going to see are going to be regular wigs, regular old wigs. Then you're going to see ponytail or pigtail wigs, which essentially they will be probably a short base wig, and then they will have 2 or however many clips of the ponytails that they need. And those are not bad. Those are good for characters that have visible, like, strands poking out of their hair, but they're usually going to be used for characters that have longer hair. And those clips are going to be, so like the Hime type hair. So a good example of, like, One character that you could look up right now if you want an example is going to be Cruel Teps from Seraph of the End. Her hair is long, and then she has 2 pigtails on the side. Technically 3, 1 in the back, if you know her design well enough. But, yeah. Essentially, you're going to need, probably what is going to be called a ponytail or a pigtail wig. And the difference between the clip ones and a more expensive one is actually going to be how the back of it is. So the back and how down the middle of it looks. The back one is going to, you will notice that the wefts are going to be flipped up, and the reason why is it's going to give the impression that that hair, think about when you have a ponytail, okay? When you wear a ponytail, or if you've ever seen someone with a ponytail, the hair in the back is not sticking out or down, it is up in the ponytail, and you will see that reflected in the wig. And these can be a lot more difficult to blend into your hair, because if any of your hair is like sticking out, like if you have any large amount of hair on your neck, because some people just have more hair on the back of their neck, it'll stand out because you won't have anything to cover it. So you might need to wind up either shaving it or using a bald cap, that kind of thing. Does cosplaying, as you need to dye the hair, and what is the recommended length for your hair? You can do, your hair does not need to be any specific length to put it into a wig cap. You just need to make sure that all of your hair is in the wig cap, and you do not need to dye your hair. And I'm going to tell you this now. If you are considering your first cosplay, unless you are cosplaying from One Punch Man, wear a wig. Okay? It doesn't matter if your character has black hair and you have black hair, wear a wig. Because I'm going to tell you this as someone that's been to many conventions. We can tell when you are brand new to cosplay because you will walk out with your greasy hair and no wig. And that, it just doesn't look good. You think it's simpler that way? You say, oh, well, I'm just cosplaying Kirito and I already have black hair. I'm just gonna get the outfit and I'm not gonna get a wig. No, get a wig. Get a wig. A wig unstyled is better than greasy otaku hair that just is flat and doesn't look right. Just get a wig. Get a wig. It doesn't matter how simple it is. Get a wig. Okay? That is the one thing that will elevate your cosplay as a beginner 100%, is actually having a wig. Because so many beginners will not do it. They will just dye their hair or something like that. Like, just get a wig. Just get a wig. You can get a really simple, you can get one for 15 bucks from Amazon or something. Like, just do it. Just do it. My hair, we'll get into that later. If you wanted to make mine as a wig, that is a complicated process due to the fact that I have an undercut, and I will explain to you how I would go about it. But for now, yeah. Those are the main points. Also, very, very, very important point. Make sure that the wig that you are getting, when you look in the description of it, is a heat-resistant wig. Because if you try to style a wig that is not heat-resistant and just has plastic, it's going to melt. It is going to melt. The second you put a hairdryer to it, the second you put any kind of heat tool to a non-heat resistant wig, it is going to melt and your wig will be ruined. So make sure that the fibers are heat resistant. And most wigs are going to be heat resistant, but always check, because really, really cheap ones won't be. Next up, these are the places that I suggest getting a wig if you are looking for something more expensive. These places specifically, that being Arta Wigs and Epic Cosplay Wigs, are going to, so for those of us that have larger noggins, it is completely normal, do not worry, it means you have a bigger brain, probably. Arta Wigs is going to be the place for you. Their wig caps are big. My little noggin, it doesn't work so well. It's a long story. But yeah, the cheaper ones should be avoided. Cheaper ones are not necessarily bad. But I will say, so the main difference between getting a wig on Amazon and getting a wig from these two places is going to be A, the amount of wefts that are there, and B, the quality. They're less likely to tangle, they're less likely to be shiny, And because that's another thing, you don't want your wig to be shiny, and the easiest way to get rid of shine in a wig is actually going to be using baby powder. So if you get a really cheap wig off of Amazon, and you can tell when wigs are kind of shiny, okay? Or just in general, if you're getting a wig off Amazon, use a brush, run it through with baby powder, drown that thing in baby powder, and then brush it out until no more comes out of it, and just shake it a bunch until it's just stuck to the wefts and the fibers and everything, and that will help a lot with removing shine from wigs. But in general, if you're looking for more expensive wigs, and I mean these can be more expensive, I mean they can be anywhere between $40 to $200 on one of these sites, okay? And it really just depends on the type of wig that you're getting. More expensive wigs are going to be lace front wigs. Lace front wigs, so good example is my hair, okay? If you were trying to cosplay me, and you see how I have those little hair vents in front, you are going to need a lace front wig, and the reason why is because you can see the roots of my hair. If you are ever going to cosplay a character where you can literally see where the hair meets the skull, it is a pretty good idea to get a lace front wig. And lace front wigs, I personally have never used a lace front wig because I do not cosplay really any characters that do utilize this type of like style, and there is also another way that you can construct a fake lace front if you do not want to get a lace front, but it's more complicated. So if you're starting out, just get a lace front if you're actually trying to cosplay a character that has a lace front. But yeah, so if you're getting lace front wigs will be more expensive, ponytail wigs will be more expensive. The longer a wig is, it will be more expensive, most likely. Yeah, it can get up there, but a wig is a very important part of your cosplay. But I would say in general, wig styling is not as important as the actual outfit itself. Because some people are really, 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 really good at wig styling, but then their outfit looks like trash. And most people would probably say that at the end of the day, like, getting your outfit more accurate and more clean is going to be preferable over, like, a perfectly styled wig, essentially. Okay? Does anyone, you know what, I'll stop between each section and take questions. So does anyone have questions about wigs? Questions about wigs. Not about styling them, just about wigs in general. Styling will be in the next slide. But questions about just wigs, like types of wigs, all of that sort of stuff. Does anyone have any questions? If not, I can just move on to styling, and then people will probably have more questions. What about washing with fabric softener? Washing with fabric softener is a good way to keep your wig smelling nicer for longer. And it is a good way to actually make it easier to detangle your wigs. For whatever reason, if you soak a wig in fabric softener overnight and then wash it out, it is a lot easier to detangle later on. Are there any real hair wigs? There are real hair wigs, yes. I would say don't use them for cosplay because they're going to be really expensive. Real hair wigs are very expensive. Do you have to take care of pretty high quality wigs? So, not like you would a plant. You don't have to brush the wig every day, but in general, the best way to store a wig, if it is not on a wig head, is going to be in a bag, in a plastic bag, or not like a grocery bag, in a Ziploc bag. And for longer wigs, if you want to avoid tangling, braid them. But in general, it is always probably going to be best to put it on a wig head, and then just, you know, make sure it doesn't get messed with. But sometimes those sorts of things can take up space. So, you know, it's a lot easier to have 50 wigs in a drawer with in a bunch of plastic baggies than it is to have 50 of them, out, on wig heads. So in general, yeah, I would say the best wigs to put on wig heads are going to be ones that are heavily styled. So if you don't want it to get crushed in the bag, put it on a wig head, or just put it up some way so that style doesn't get crushed. How to store wigs. How to store wigs that are already destroyed with hairspray. If a wig is destroyed with hairspray, I would wash it. Wash it in cold water. Try to get as much of the hairspray out as you can. Because, I mean, it doesn't really matter. If it's already messed up, the way that you store it isn't going to make much of a difference. For the most part. Yeah. So moving on to wig styling. This is gonna look maybe a bit intimidating, but don't worry. Don't worry. There's a lot going on here, and I will explain it to you. So, we're gonna go from left to right. These two brushes right here are gonna be your best friends. A regular cheapo brush that you can get from the dollar store. Probably the ones that have those little dots on them I find to work the best. And then a trichome, which is what this one is called. I have Timothy, but I'm pointing with my head. Anyways, let me actually, you know, use the pointer that I whipped out. So, this is a regular brush. This is a trichome. And trichomes are good for detangling. Trichomes are good for styling, specifically using this end in order to hold up wefts that may be warm. Or something that you just want to hold up to separate, all that. Those are going to be your two best friends. Alright? So here is a hairspray. This is the hairspray that I recommend. It is called Got to Be Glue. You will notice that there is a gel from the same brand, but I personally do not use that gel very often because I find that it just makes it really hard to restyle the wig. It's really, Got to Be Glue gel is really hard to wash out. So if it's a wig that you use for a lot of different characters, I would suggest not using Got to Be Glue gel. But if it's a style that you're trying to keep in that hair, no matter what, go ahead and use that gel, because that gel will hold. For making spikes in wigs, so a good example is going to be looking at my hair. To make these spikes, what you would probably do is, one, you would, okay, I forgot to put it on here, but you will also need a teasing comb. You can kind of use the edges of this, but it's better if you use a comb that is specifically meant for teasing. And essentially what you would do is, so you would go to the base of the weft on the wig, you would brush backwards, you would tease it, and then you would brush it forwards a bit. So essentially you're creating volume at the base of the wig, and that will also help it stand up. Then you are going to hairspray it into the position that you want. You're going to hair dry it into place. And then if you want a very nice point, you're actually going to use tacky glue at the end to keep that point. And tacky glue is also very hard to wash out. So make sure you want those points there, you know? But that is what you would do. If you want to add volume to a wig from the base, you're going to want to tease it. Spikes in a wig are things that you're going to want to tease. If you are dyeing a wig, okay, and sometimes it can be like that, because there, for example, a really good one is Nezuko from Demon Slayer. The wigs that I have seen for Nezuko are usually wigs where half of the wefts are black, and then they only go, like, I don't know, 40 centimeters. And then there are a bunch of orange wefts that are, like, at the bottom half of the wig and are also, like, 50 centimeters or so. I don't like those kinds of wigs. I would prefer if it was actually an ombre. So the way that you're going to dye wigs is going to be using, you can use any kind of synthetic dye, but I personally recommend Rit Dye More. And you can get this in a lot of colors. You can mix them together to make different shades. And if you actually go to Epic Cosplay Wigs website, they have a really good guide on how many seconds to leave your wig in the pot of dye and all of that in order to get different shades, all of that. It's a really, really good guide. And in general, the tools that you're going to need, like for heat styling, is going to be a hairdryer. The specific attachment at the end doesn't really matter. Just make sure that there is more than one setting on the hairdryer. A hairdryer that you can adjust the heat on is going to be important. So these two, they look very similar, but there is a difference. This one down here, this is a regular hair straightener, and you're going to use this to straighten wigs. You can use this to put in certain curls, and you can also use this to create more stuck in, like, you can also use this to, like, make your points in your wig, so, like, the parts that stick out right here. Essentially, the way that you would go about it is you would tease it, right? You would tease it and hairspray the tease, then brush it out a bit so you'll see it kind of standing up. Then you are going to, not on the teased part, on the parts that are not teased, you're going to kind of pull it back, like in a curl in a sense, or as much as you need it to be, and then you're going to spray that. And that is how you will get a spike in a wig. Or at least a spike like the one in my hair, essentially. Now, for long wigs that need a lot of volume, like, for example, let's say you're making, I don't know. It really depends on the wig. But if it is a wig that it is more voluminous, like it is not straight, so for example, my ponytail, right? My ponytail is quite voluminous, and if it were any normal ponytail, it wouldn't look this voluminous, right? The way that this would be achieved is by using a crimper. And what you would do is you would go from the base, you would begin to slowly just push it in for a few seconds until you see little waves form in the wig wefts. By the way, this is gonna be stuck like this unless you straighten it. There is no amount of brushing that you can do to ever get that wig as straight as it was before. Because what you are doing when you are heat styling a wig is you are melting the plastic. You are melting the plastic of the wig, not enough to break it, obviously, because it's heat resistant, but you are melting it to shape it. So it is never going to go back to the way that it was unless you completely straighten it back to the way that it was. So you're going to crimp it, and then you're actually just going to brush it out. And you'll notice when you brush out crimps in a wig that it will be very puffy and voluminous. And usually what you do for something like this, since there are no visible waves in my hair, is you would actually leave out like the top and the bottom wefts, or like a few layers of them, and you would only do the wefts on the inside. You would only do, like, so let's just say, for example, there are 10 wefts in my ponytail. You would leave out the first two, and then you leave out the last two, and you do the rest where you'd crimp them and brush them out. And then you would brush over the normal straightened hair on top of it, and that will give you a very clean look. I forgot to put on, like, scissors and stuff. I'll talk about that in a second. And by the way, these are hair rollers. These could be used for curls. And depending on the type of curl that you need, obviously you can get them in different sizes, but you don't always need to do this. You can just use any item that won't melt from a hairdryer. So you can use toilet paper rolls, okay? If that's the size your curls need to be, you can do that. You can also use them on, like, straws. You can use straws if you need really tight curls. Most of the time what you're going to do, if you're willing to kind of get your hands a little bit burnt, is you're actually going to straighten the weft first. Straighten it until it's warm. Then you're gonna wrap it, and then you're just gonna pin it in place, and it will stay until, wait until the weft is completely cooled, and it will be stuck like that. And in order to keep it, like, you know, even better, you're gonna hit it with the hairspray. Always, by the way, always do your hairspray about 6 inches away, 6 to 10, because if you're right up in there, you're going to put one too much in, and it just won't work. Just don't do it. You really do not need as much hairspray as you think you do. Trust me. If you are using an entire can on a single, like, spike, that's not what you should be doing. You should maybe be using an entire can on an entire wig full of spikes, but not just an individual one. Definitely not. As far as scissors go, you should never cut anything, and obviously I don't have examples of this because I completely forgot about them. There's a lot to know about cosplay, okay? So putting something together like this is actually not that easy, which is why it's better that I am taking questions, because then, you know, you guys will fill in the gaps, essentially, that I missed. Because there's just a lot to know, and I know it when I'm doing it, but I don't really know it to present it, essentially. But for scissors, There's going to be regular scissors, and then there are going to be, they're called layering scissors, actually. And layering scissors are the scissors that you're going to want to use when you are trying to cut wigs shorter, but not have the edges be blunt. Blunt edges, when they're not supposed to be blunt, do not look very good. So you're actually going to use these thinning scissors, or that's what they're called. Phew. Thinning scissors or layering scissors, and you're going to do that. Or what you can do, another thing that you can do is if you can kind of manage it with regular scissors, you just have to be very careful. It's really hard to explain because I do not have video proof. So a lot of this is stuff that you're probably going to have to look up later if you want visual aid, because it's unfortunately kind of hard for me to show that off to you right now. But there is a way that you can do it with just regular blunt scissors. You just need to be very careful. And it's sort of like a sliding motion where you start higher than you want to cut, and you cut at an angle, and you just, as you move the scissors down through the hair, you're not going to close the scissor completely because obviously, you know, you would just cut it completely. You're just not going to close it completely. And you're kind of just gonna, like, slowly trim away, like, layers and layers and layers. You're gonna put layers in it, essentially. It's hard to explain, but yeah. So does anyone have questions about styling wigs? Now is your time. Ask away. And I'll explain the best I can. Can I just ask the hairstyler to cut it instead? Most hairstylers probably don't know how to cut cosplay wigs. But I mean, you can always try if you want something very basic done, like just like regular bangs. They can probably do that. Can you use bleach on a wig? Never use bleach on a wig. If you are trying to dye a wig, either start from a white wig. Start from a white wig, or if it's like a lighter red to a darker red, just get red dye, you know? But in general, yeah, you're gonna want to start from a white wig if you're going to do it a color. And can I use hair wax on a wig? You can, but I would say it might be a little hard to wash out. Yeah. How to get spikes to stick up without holding? I guess the greatest example would be a Killua, not a Killua wig, a Killua wig that I did once. Was basically, I got a wig that was short enough and I liked how it looked. I basically just tipped the wig upside down. I sprayed it with a shit ton of hairspray, and then I just fucking shook it. I shook it like crazy. And that's how I got a bunch of spikes in it. But in general, you are gonna have to hold it up manually if you want there to be a spike. It's not gonna be easy to create a spike otherwise. Sometimes you'll get lucky, and when you're styling it with a hair, oh my gosh, a hair straightener. There we go. If you're styling with a hair straightener, sometimes if you'll do it right and it'll just look fine, you can just spray it like that. Especially if you're putting like curlies in the hair. So like if you're doing it a hoge, usually you can kind of get away with it as long as you tease the bottom. But in general, yeah, the main step for making, the steps for making spikes is going to be like teasing it, and then hair straightening it into the right position, and then holding it up with and then hairspraying it, and then drying it in that position, and it'll stay like that unless you shove it in a bag. Wigs feel like a scary part of learning how to make cosplays. Every part of cosplay to some extent can be scary as soon as you start to get into the really technical stuff. For the most part, a lot of wigs do not need to be heavily styled. Again, you can get away with a lot. This is just if you're trying to make a wig very, very accurate. You're gonna want all these tools, essentially. Hold it one by one. Can we use hair clippers? You can probably use hair clippers, but the problem is that if you're using a hair clipper and then you spray it with like hairspray, you're not gonna get hairspray everywhere. And if you're spraying it with, if you're hitting it with like a hair dryer, you're actually going to leave imprints in the fibers of the wig from that metal, because think about it, the metal's going to heat up and it's going to essentially, it's going to crimp it in places you don't want it to be crimped, because you're going to be using a clip instead. So it's it's best to use your hands, or if you don't want to hold it with your hands because you're afraid it might be too hot, using like this part of it to hold it up would be good. Or depending on the type of comb that you get, some of them have metal like sticks at the end of them that can also be used to hold it up. But in general, it's not very, I wouldn't say use clips because you could leave an imprint in the wefts, in the hair of it. Do you recommend teasing, crimping, or both for volume? For ultimate volume, crimping and teasing is going to be the best way to do it. Yeah, that's gonna be the best way to do it. It's definitely going to be that. And I highly suggest, like, you know, looking up tutorials for, like, how to style wigs. If they're following any of the steps that I'm telling you about, then it's probably a pretty good chance that you're gonna get out of it what you want. And you can see a lot better example of, like, how to actually do it. Because it's a lot harder to learn when you're just hearing than it is, like, you know, actually being told. Or, sorry, it's actually being shown is what I meant to say. Yeah. Does anyone have any more questions about, like, how to style wigs, how to dye wigs, how to pick wigs, how to anything regarding wigs? Any question regarding a wig, you can ask now. Because after this, we're moving off of wigs. How long do you take to get a good wig? To get good at wig styling. It really depends on how fast you pick up the skills. It really, really depends. Pick wigs, what are the options and what to go for? So I kind of covered that already, but it's okay. It's okay. I understand some people weren't here before. So just to kind of wrap it up, I'll say again, you always want to get a heat resistant wig. You can get them, the less styled a wig is, the more likely you can just get something from Amazon, because Amazon wigs are not going to have a lot of wefts in them. And the more styled a wig is, specifically usually for ones that are spiked heavily, so like for example Ichigo from oh my god, from Bleach. Jeez, why was that so hard? Or like Killua from Hunter x Hunter. Those types of wigs that have a lot of spiking in them, you're gonna want to get a more expensive wig. The places I suggest for those, I'll kind of recap. I'll just go through a recap of it. Essentially, yeah, you can get any like not very styled wigs, so like anything that's just flat. If the character has flat, straight hair, you can probably find it on Amazon. I suggest the brand Map of Beauty, because theirs are the best quality that I've found on Amazon. And they have the most color variety and the most length variety. So like, for example, Power from Chainsaw Man, you don't really need to go looking for a more expensive wig. And the different wigs that you'll find is you're going to find regular wigs. You're going to find clip wigs, which are going to be wigs that have a base regular wig, and then they will come with ponytail extensions that you quite literally clip into the wig. Then you are going to find ponytail wigs or pigtail wigs that have the wefts on the back, like where the base of it is, where the neck would meet the wig cap. Those are going to be flipped because it is going to give the illusion that your hair is actually tied up. So for characters that have, like Aki from Chainsaw Man, that would be a wig that would be a ponytail wig. Yeah. Some of those like that. Those will be ponytail wigs. And then there are going to be lace front wigs. And lace front wigs are going to be used for characters that you can see where the hair meets the skull. So, for example, if you were trying to cosplay me, you would need a lace front wig. You would need a lace front wig for whatever I am. And yeah, those are the different types of wigs. Cosmetics I'll answer about in a little bit, Limbo, because we do actually have a cosmetics section. So don't worry, we can get back to that. So write that down, put it in the hat. Any other questions about wigs? Any other questions about wigs? Wigs can be seemingly the most complicated because there's a lot that goes into styling them. Oh, and these are the companies that I suggest. These are online ones that you'd have to order from. They're not physical stores to my knowledge. These are the two that I suggest if you are trying to get wigs that require more styling. I would say the only wigs you could really safely get off of Amazon if you want a good quality wig are going to be either just regular wigs or clip-in ones. Wigs with like ponytail extension clips on them. Otherwise, if you're looking for lace fronts or for ponytail wigs which are different from clip-in ponytail wigs. You're gonna want to go to Arda wigs or Epic Cosplay wigs. I think both are very good suggestions. Arda can be more expensive than Epic, so yeah, I would say look at both of them, and because some of them, they have different color selections, so some of them you won't be able to find correctly. So for example, I was trying to get a wig for someone else for a Grimjow cosplay, and I looked on Epic Cosplay, and they did not have the color blue that I wanted, so I looked on Arda, and I found it there instead. So sometimes it's just a difference between color. And I will also say the cap sizes of the wigs from Amazon are probably going to be smaller, so if you have a larger head, you're probably going to want a wig from Arda or from Epic Cosplay if you want it to fit comfortably and not give you a headache. Another important thing that I said was make sure you wear a wig cap. Unless you're quite literally bald, always wear a wig cap. And also, always wear a wig. Unless you're bald. Unless, like, you're... Oh my god. I sneeze every stream, I swear. We just need a sneeze counter. Unless you are cosplaying a character that is bald, or if they have a fade, because some characters will have fades in their hair. The tattoo artist from Tokyo Ghoul. That is a cosplay that you could do with your regular hair, okay? If it is a character that has like an undercut or a fade, you can kind of get away with it as long as their hair is simple. I think his name is Uta. Uta from Tokyo Ghoul. That is one that you could get away with your regular hair because his hair is flat for the most part. But in general, yeah, you're gonna always want to wear a wig. Always wear a wig, even if it's a black wig, even if you're cosplaying Kirito from SAO, wear a wig. You will oh my gosh, you will look significantly less like a beginner if you are wearing a wig. 100%. Yeah, all the bless yous, all the bless yous. Whew. But again, you do not have to wear a wig, all right? Some people live by only using their natural hair, and more power to you, honestly. But, you know, if you're looking for my personal advice is to wear a wig, because it just adds to the cosplay, you know? Oh. I have an undercut. Does that mean I need to cut the wig? Yes. That is what it would be, essentially. If you wanted to get as accurate as possible, you would have to cut a wig in half, essentially. Mine would be quite complicated. Yeah, my hair, we'll talk about how I would go about my hair a little later, but yeah. Any last call for wigs? Anything else about wigs? Anything else about wigs? I would only try to do ones that use my normal hair, and that's fair. That's totally fair. You could do that. Cosplay is what you make of it. You can cosplay a character in any way you want. You can cosplay Link in a steampunk outfit. You can cosplay Link in a maid outfit. You can cosplay any way that you want. It is all about your imagination. That is what's important. So, moving on from wigs. This is also going to look a bit intimidating, okay? Do not be intimidated. Do not be intimidated. Again, this is all the other stuff that you might need. Do not be intimidated. Makeup. Alright? These are all the things that I use in my cosplay makeup routine. Okay? These are all the different things. And these are actually the things that I use as far as, like, these few things right here. And some of these right here. Most of these actually are what I use. So, we're going to start off, and this is the order, by the way, this is the order that I suggest that you put your makeup on in. Essentially, you're going to want to start off with a primer. The one that I personally use is the NYX Marshmallow Primer. And that's what you're going to use. And you're going to apply all of this, by the way, with a beauty blender. It's this little egg right here. They come in different shapes. I would say either the one that's traditionally egg-shaped or the one that's more bulbous at the top with like a little skinny waist and then bulbous at the bottom. Those can also be used just fine. Or any kind of like beauty sponge. And you are going to want to run these under water and squeeze out the water and let it absorb until it grows about twice its size. Does it smell like marshmallow? It actually smells really good. It smells really good. I love this primer personally. But yeah, so you're gonna want to fill this with water, like run it under water and squeeze it until it's like doubled in size just about, because that way it's not going to soak up your makeup because it's soaked up the water already. So I use the NYX one, and then I actually put foundation. So I'm gonna kind of like zoom in for a second on myself so you can kind of see. So foundation, where I personally put it, is going to go in the corner of your eye right here. In the corner right here. The corner's there. And then I'm going to put it, for me personally, because I talk a lot, I find that a lot of cracking in my makeup happens, like, around my mouth. So I put it, like, you know, around my mouth, essentially. And then I blend that all in. And you put this on after your primer. You put this on after your primer, and you put it in the key areas where you're either going to have a lot of action, so you know you're moving your eyes around a lot, you're blinking, so of course you're going to want to put primer there. Concealer, not primer, concealer. We're talking about concealer now. Concealer there. What if I use no blender? I use tiny brushes. So I personally wouldn't suggest brushes. A lot of people do use makeup brushes. I don't like makeup brushes. They leave a texture a lot of the time, and I just don't like them. I think a beauty sponge is the best way to go, personally. Also, replace them quite frequently. I would honestly go on Amazon and get like a big like bulk beauty blender thing of like filled with like 200 of them, and just replace them like every 2 times you do cosplay, because they'll get grody after a while. They'll get grody pretty fast. But yeah, so you're going to place the concealer in any points that are going to be stress areas. And if you have bags under your eyes, I would suggest putting the concealer like all under your eye and everything like that to try to cover up the bags, etc, etc. Then you're going to put foundation. This is also the foundation that I use. By the way, the concealer that I use, I get an expensive concealer because concealer can really save you. So I do use Fenty Beauty. These are the colors I use, everything. This, like, so I use, like, I have to get really light ones. I'm very pale. And so, yeah, I use that concealer. I mean, as you can see, I'm quite pale. I don't go outside. So, you know. And this is also the foundation that I use. It's Morphe. And is that Morphe? Is it? I can't read. I think it is. I believe it's Morphe. I don't know. I just kind of use it. And this one is actually more of a tint. I don't use a lot of heavy coverage foundation because I find it can be quite cakey. So that is why I get a very, very good concealer. Because this, really all that it's doing is hiding the redness on my face. So, like, if I have red areas, like, that is going to just get rid of that. There are color correctors that you can get. I personally do not use color correctors. If you feel like you need color correctors, you can look into that. Like, if your face is very, very red in certain areas, you may want to look into color correction, because sometimes the redness can show through no matter what you do. Yeah. So I use personally one that's not a very heavy duty foundation, because I rely more on the concealer to take away my bags and just like all that kind of stuff. And yeah, you're gonna blend all that together, and then you'll get your base. And I forgot to put it on here, oopsies, but you're also going to need a setting powder, or a setting powder. I personally use translucent setting powder because then it doesn't have any color to it. Translucent setting powder, you're going to apply with your beauty blender after you're all done with it. And that is what's going to lock in your makeup. If you do not, in my personal experience, not using setting powder makes it so my makeup cracks like around my mouth and around my eyes so much more easy. So use setting powder, and in a pinch, you can use baby powder as well. But I don't suggest using a lot of baby powder because that's how you get clown lung, as the drag queens call it. But baby powder is heavy duty, so it really works. Next, lipstick. So for lips, you can see I've outlined it here. I do my lips in a specific way. I think that this is good for most general cosplay, for guys and for girls. is you'll actually, what you're gonna do is you're going to kind of, when you're blending all this stuff on your face together, you're going to, so like the concealer and the foundation, all that, actually put it over your lips. Put it over your lips, all right? As much as you can. You don't have to like go all the way in, obviously. Like just around the edges of your lips. So like almost like you're blending in your lips, like where the line of your lips to your face are. You're gonna blend those in. And then you're actually going to apply red or pink or something like that to where I've kind of, I've made these little blue marks. That's where that red is going to go. And then with your finger or a brush, but I personally would just, you know, why waste a brush? Just use your finger. Blend that out into the concealer, and then you'll have a very nice, pretty fade. Obviously, if your character has bright red lipstick, like, just put the lipstick as you see it. But for the most part, yeah. And a lot of the time, like, okay, so if you're doing more feminine male cosplay, because some guys, like, you know, they're more femmy, I would say do this kind of lipstick. But you can get away with just using the concealer on your lips, but never put the concealer directly on your lips like a lipstick. Do not do that. Do not do that. Just use whatever's left on your beauty blender to kind of blend the edges, and that will give you that sort of thing, you know? Is face paint a no-no? I mean, whatever you really need. See, I have used a lot of different things for lipstick. Sometimes I've even used, like, eyeshadow, okay? It's really what you can get away with and looking good. That's kind of what cosplay, at the end of the day, that's what a lot of cosplay is what can I get away with that doesn't make me look crusty as hell? That's, like, kind of how you want to think about it, you know? Yeah. So if you can get away with it without it looking crusty, use it. Like, unless it is directly toxic to your body, use it. You know, if it's gonna poison you, don't. But yeah. This is the liquid eyeliner that I use. But I use it very rarely. Most of the time, I actually use an angled brush, which you can see right here. And I use a dark gray from my eyeshadow palette. And this is the eyeshadow palette that I use. This is the James Charles eyeshadow palette. Now, I know James Charles has had some controversies and whatnot, but this is the one that I have because of the selection. I highly suggest getting a rainbow colored palette because you are going to find all the colors that you need for all the different types of characters. And if you're lucky, they'll come with pretty much like a free bunch of different highlight colors as well, so you don't even need to spend on highlighters, you know? Yeah, felt tip. I use felt tip if I'm going to use it. But for the most part, I just use an angled brush, and I kind of like, because I don't do like really, my cosplay, how I prefer it, I prefer to kind of blend the naturalism with the anime aesthetic. So I very rarely like do hard, because sometimes you'll see people that do hardcore eye makeup, right? I tend to not do that unless like their eyes are like very specific. Like if it doesn't look like that, you wouldn't know it's the character. You know, like very specific makeup would be like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. For that, you should probably go in pretty heavy with the makeup, you know? But for the most part, like, I just don't. I kind of try to blend, the naturalism in with the anime aesthetic. Yeah. And too much makeup can kind of just, it's a lot easier to mess up a lot of makeup than it is to mess up a little bit of makeup, you know? And then, this is also this personally is the, what are you called? Mascara, there we go. The mascara that I use, I know it doesn't really show, I believe it's Clinique. But yeah, I use that because it's so volumized and so nice. But in general, you can kind of just get away with any, like, mascara. Also, for both of these, go for waterproof. Go for waterproof. Just trust me, go for waterproof. You're never gonna regret getting waterproof makeup until it's time to take it off. And as far as eyelashes go, I personally always look for eyelashes that have these little spikes in them. It just gives a better anime aesthetic. What if you cry? That's why you need the waterproof. It won't come off if you cry. If it's good waterproof, it won't come off. Trust me. Trust me. Trust me from personal experience that these work. If I have long eyelashes, do I need to add more eyelashes? It depends on the character. Some characters you can get away with. It really, I would always say your makeup should never be the same, okay? If your makeup is the same for every single character that you do, you know, you're not really making your face that memorable for the character. Like, my makeup is different for every single character. For the most part. There's obviously, you know, things that are similar or the same, like the way that I do my foundation and whatnot. But, yeah. How do you get it off? So, makeup remover will do it. You might need to use, like, more than one. I personally just use my face wash. The face wash I use is the Sensitive CeraVe, and that gets rid of, like, all of my makeup. Like, that's literally how I take my makeup off, is with that. And it works just fine. But yeah, not rubbing alcohol. Don't use rubbing alcohol. Do not do that. And in general, these are the brushes you can get. These are all the Wet n Wild ones, which, by the way, you can get each of these brushes for $1 in the drugstore. Unless, you know, like, inflation caught up to them. But these are, like, the basic brushes that you need. But the main brushes that I use all the time is going to be a blush brush, a smaller brush. So this is a blush brush, by the way. One of these two would be very good as a blush brush. And then I use this brush here. I actually have these brushes, by the way, so I can attest to the fact that, you know, they work. And this one I use for eyeshadow and all of that sort of stuff. And then, again, this angled brush is what I use for applying eyeliner if I'm going to do more subtle eyeliner that is, like, blended in kind of eyeliner. And those are the ones that I really use. I don't really use all of these other ones. It really depends on what you're trying to do. Really, it does. Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone have questions about makeup? I'm sure there's quite a few. So please ask now. Use a paintbrush. Do not use a paintbrush because paintbrushes are coarser and it could hurt, especially if you're putting it on your eye. So do not use paintbrushes. That is what I would say. Do not use paintbrushes. Setting spray or powder. Setting powder for so setting powder for right when you finish putting on your, oh, I forgot to mention that. So after you put your concealer on for the first time, and then you do your foundation, go over in the same areas as before, or any place that needs to be lighter. By the way, your concealer should always be lighter than your foundation. And that concealer, you're gonna put it back on again on the same places. Because the first concealing is just to, like, you know, actually conceal and give the most. And the next is more kind of like as a highlighter and accentuator, but also just kind of covering your bases. And then you use setting powder. And then once all of this is done, all your makeup is done, use setting spray to lock it in. All of it in. So that is what you would do. Can some makeup affect other makeup? Like cause it to fall off? The only thing that I've had any experience in with that is if you're trying, oh, by the way, apply your setting powder with a brush. Apply your setting powder with a fluffy brush. So like a brush blush, like one of these. Because if you can use the beauty blender, but I would only use the beauty blender like if the beauty blender is like not too wet, because if you get that setting powder wet, it's gonna be cakey and it's gonna chip off and it's not gonna look good. So that's like kind of the only thing that I've noticed that doesn't really work well with each other. All of the rest, in my personal experience, I've never had anything happen. Can something, how would you do scars? So scars, it depends. If it's a scar like mine that isn't like an open fresh wound, I personally would just use powder. I would use eyeshadow and I would literally eyeshadow it onto my face, and then maybe I'd kind of highlight or like accentuate the like the dark parts with like a slightly darker brown. But yeah, for the most part, scars, if they look one-dimensional, I make them one-dimensional. More other kind of scars you can use scar wax. If it's more of like, if you want it to look more realistic. If you want it to look more realistic on the character, then I would use something called scar wax. And that's SFX. That's something that I very rarely do because it is a complicated process. But in general, scar wax is like, you put it on your face, then you seal it in, and then you do the thing. Look it up. I can't help you with that one, unfortunately. If you want a three-dimensional scar, yeah, scar wax is where you start. What are the most important aspects to start with if you're not familiar with makeup? I would say, okay, if you're not familiar with makeup, like, at all, I would say the most important thing is make sure that your foundation and your concealer are actually the correct color. That's, like, the most important thing. Make sure that they don't make you look orange. There are different tones of skin tones. There are neutral tones, there are cool tones, and there are warm tones. If you have a more pinky sort of like undertone to your skin, you're going to be cool for the most part. I personally, cool or neutral, if it's more of like a yellowy orange tint to your skin, then it's going to be more of a warm tone. But there are also, of course, olive tone skins. I would say if you're seriously considering buying a bunch of makeup for cosplay, like, you're already buying makeup, don't be embarrassed. Get help in the store. Go to Ulta Beauty or Sephora or wherever and ask them to help color match you, because that's what's going to be the most helpful. Yeah. And don't be afraid to use cheap makeup, by the way. Like, when you're starting out, like, I am showing you guys what I use, but these are, like, things that I had to do a lot of trial and error on, okay? I started out with drugstore makeup, and I suggest, you know, if you do not do cosplay very often, and you're just trying to learn and play around and do stuff at home and not to go to a convention, not get pictures of yourself, use drugstore. Use drugstore makeup. If you are trying to learn, do not use expensive makeup. It really will not make much of a difference. The only big difference between cheap makeup and expensive makeup is how long it's going to last, how long it's going to look in pictures, and the wear and tear of it in general. Like, yeah, like, you can get away with cheap makeup. Like, trust me, you can. What if I'm bad at applying eyeliner? I am bad at applying eyeliner, so I understand this sentiment. What I do is I use eyeshadow instead, because eyeliner is quite hard to control, and that's where I use the angle brush, because as long as you can find the angle where you want it to meet, like, the lid of your eye, like, you can just kind of swipe that, and it'll look fine. If it's an angled brush, it'll look like a wing, and you can just, well, you know, wing it. And there is a lot of different ways to do anime eye makeup, by the way. I was just looking it up on YouTube, take inspiration from others, look at your favorite cosplayers. Do not be afraid to steal or try to replicate how that cosplayer is doing their makeup. Like, do it. If you can figure out how to do it, do it. If you like what someone does in their makeup, 100% replicate it, okay? 100%. Like, try your best to do that, because that will give you the result more that you want, you know? Oh yeah, I say I'm broke. I don't even have setting powder. Anything else you can serve as a swap? Yes. Baby powder. Pure cornstarch baby powder. The one that I use personally, I actually have it right in front of me. I just use Equate baby powder. Hypoallergenic. And do not use it very often, though. So if you cosplay like once a month, go ahead, or like that, use baby powder. If you're cosplaying like every day or every week, you should invest in the setting powder. That's actually good for you. But yeah, in general, you can get away with using baby powder. Don't use flour. Practice makes perfect. Exactly. Don't mix wet and dry. Yeah, don't mix wet and dry. This is technically not makeup, but how would you do eyes? Like, not around the eyes, but the eyes themselves. Do you mean contacts? Oh, yeah, contacts. I personally use a website called Honeycolor. I totally forgot about contacts. I actually don't use contacts very often because I don't like putting my finger in my eye. So if you already put in contacts though, like, cause you know, you need contacts, like, yeah, go ahead and get colored contacts. I use Pinky Paradise or Honeycolor contacts. Those are good ones to use. Yeah. If that makes sense for your question. If that's what you mean. I want to see Blaze in a character creator. Yeah. A good pun. Hello, hi. I'm mostly in contacts. Yeah, contacts is the way to go. Or you can just edit them in post, honestly. Like, don't be afraid to do that. What, I got cornstarch? Don't use cornstarch! Don't use cornstarch. Do not use cornstarch. Not cornstarch. Baby powder. Baby powder. Get baby powder. Don't use cornstarch, that's different. I use pure cornstarch baby powder, but it has other stuff in it, okay? Specifically, again, the one that I use is Equate baby powder. Equate cornstarch baby powder, hypoallergenic, because it's dermatologist and pediatrician tested, mild and gentle, and it keeps the skin soft, smooth, and dry, and it does not contain talc, okay? That's the important thing. So use baby powder, please. Contacts are the things that scare me the most with cosplay. Yeah, I rarely use them. Okay, contacts are the last thing I think personally that you should think of. Contacts and shoes. Contacts and shoes are like, well, depending on the shoes. If they're like very, 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 very specific crazy shoes, like, you know, like maybe. But for the most part, contacts and shoes, contact shoes and props are the least important things in cosplay, to me personally. Yeah, eye color is not more important than your comfort, 100%. Do colored contacts block your vision at all? It depends. So there are two different types of contacts. They're going to be circle lens contacts. Okay, three technically. They're going to be ones that do not have a thick rim around the color of them. Those are just going to be regular color contacts. Then they're going to be called what did I just call them? Oh my gosh. I just said it too. But they have black around them. They have thick black rings around them. Those are going to be the other kind of contacts that you want. Those are usually the ones that people go for in cosplay because it gives the impression that, you know, they're drawn in, that kind of thing. Sclera is when it's your entire eyeball, and those are terrifying. I've never put in a sclera contact. And then the last ones are going to be mesh contacts. Mesh contacts, those can be hard to see out of, and so can scleras. But in general, a regular contact, or the ones with the thick rings around them, you should not have that much trouble seeing them. If you do, there's a problem with the contact and you get new contacts. But you should not have problems seeing. Because the reason why you won't have problems seeing is because there will actually, it will be clear, because you guys realize that you don't see with your entire eyeball, right? You see with the part in the middle. So as long as, you know, most contacts won't, they'll be clear right there, so you'll be okay. But yeah, you might see a faint outline of the color, but for the most part, yeah, it should be fine. One hand is dominant for most people, so what do you do when it comes to applying makeup involving the weaker side of the body? I just turn my head and I pray to God. I use my dominant hand. I would never do it with my weak hand. I would never do it. Yeah, don't. You want to cosplay Sukuna? Oh. Are you saying to, like, do the things, like, the slits in the eyeballs and stuff? Yeah, for that, I would try to get a custom tattoo. If you're doing Sukuna, like, with, like, all the eyes like that, like, open, like, you're not just doing Yuji with the regular, like, little, like, black parts that are on his cheeks, I would get custom temporary tattoos. Personally, for more complicated stuff like that, like, for another one, Tanjiro's scar from Demon Slayer. Or, like, you can get temporary tattoos. That can be a very easy way, especially if you want consistency in your cosplays. Temporary tattoos can be very, very, very helpful. So using sports shoes is fine. Yeah, like, I never care, okay? Like, Killua from Hunter x Hunter. I wear Vans, okay? I don't wear his stupid little shoes. I wear black Vans. Like, yeah, you don't need to. You really don't need to worry too much. He took the baking into his face too seriously. Yeah. A full eye contact hurts to think about. Yeah. Yeah, temp tattoos will help a lot. Yeah, like the one you get from chewing gum, essentially, yeah. Can I tell you anything about nails with cosplay? How do you mean? You kind of just need to get fake nails and then you get nail glue. To take them off, make sure you just follow directions, which is you soak them in water, soak them in hot water, or like acetone, and that kind of stuff. That'll take off. Yeah. In general, just fake nails, or like actually, obviously, like, painting your nails. But yeah. Does anyone have any more questions about makeup? Because makeup, I think personally, is pretty important to cosplay. And it could be a wide variety of, like, even simple makeup to complicated makeup. Like, just having makeup on your face can help a lot. It's the thing with the wig. It's another thing. It's like, wear makeup, you know? If you can afford to, wear makeup. Even just a little bit. And you don't always have to wear foundation or concealer. I would say the most important thing is eyeliner. Out of all of the makeup that's here, I would say eyeliner is the most important. Making your eyes look a bit more anime-esque is what's going to really sell it. Putting that makeup on, and yeah, and then like blending your lips like with the red in the middle, that can make it look a bit better. Those kinds of things, yeah. Blaze cosplay, we'll talk about that later. Yeah. Can you leave makeup on when you need cosplay for more than a day? Don't do that. No, do not sleep in your makeup. Do not sleep in your makeup. Don't do it. Just don't. Just don't. You can sleep in a bald cap though. So because sometimes it can take a long time to put like a bald cap on properly and like actually have your hair like gel like set and everything like that. You can do the night before and you can sleep in that. As long as you're not like a crazy sleeper. But yeah, do not leave your makeup on. Also, do not leave your contacts in for longer than like 8 hours. 8 to 12. Any past that, bad idea. You should take them out. You should take them out. Also, big thing. When you receive your contacts, they're going to come in a solution already. Get them out of there. Get contact solution. Any contact solution works, and put them in there. The solution that your contacts come in originally, that is sterile solution. And if you put your contacts in your eyes from that solution, you are putting alcohol in your eyes. You are going to burn your eyes. Do not do that. Never sleep in your contacts either. Never sleep in them. Never. You can cut your eye. I have known someone that has cut their eye because they use dried out contacts. Also, look at your contacts. If your contacts are dry in the case, like you haven't touched them in 6 months and they're dry in the case, do not use them again. Don't do that. Also, every time you take your contacts out, put them in new contact solution. Never put them in the same contact solution that you took them out of. And always, always do that, okay? That is the way. Look, these are going in your eyeballs. Do not risk it. Make sure they are clean, okay? Make sure they are clean. I always sleep in contacts. So you can kind of get away with it for regular contacts, like, you know, that you use every day kind of contacts. But cosplay contacts, like contacts that are made for cosplay that are not prescription contacts, you should not sleep in those. Do not sleep in those. They are way more prone to drying out. Do not do that. Yeah. Don't do that. Is it important to use things like moisturizer if you start doing cosplay makeup? I would say, yeah, after you wash your face, make sure to use a good moisturizer, or the best that you can. How do we avoid getting poked in the eye by the wig? You don't. You just suffer. I get poked in the eye all the time. You just suffer. You really do, you know? If you have a cosplay where that's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Unfortunately. Cosplay can be a bit of suffering sometimes. Cosplay is like fashion modeling. Cosplay, beauty is pain. Okay? So. There's some solution sets that also have an oxidizer disc in the tube that really help clean the lenses. Yeah, the bubbles help knock anything off. Yeah. Some of them will come with that, so keep those. So how strong is setting powder? Because I cosplay Dobby and he's got a white shirt and purple skin, so I'm wondering if I can save my laundry. I would say be very careful when you take that shirt off. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, it'll hold it decently. So, like, for example, like, if you just, like, quickly touch your face and you don't apply a lot of pressure, it's not gonna come off, probably. But, yeah, well, for the, okay, so if you're specifically cosplaying Dobby, okay. So, if you are going to cosplay a character like Dobby, this is a perfect example. There are these body paints that you can get called Mayron, okay? You can get them on Amazon. Mehron, I believe. Mayron body paints. They are liquid body paints. They are very, very nice. They're way better than the stuff that you get at, like, Halloween City or Party City or whatever. And that you're gonna have to scrub off. So your laundry will be fine if you use Mayron. And Mayron isn't really that expensive either, but it's really good. It's really good. Make sure to use, like, setting powder on top of that, though. And then you'll be good. You will be good. Like, even if you sweat, like, even a little bit of sweat, not a lot of sweat, but a little bit of sweat, it shouldn't come off. Because it's waterproof. What if you put contacts in and then and they scratch your eyes and actually fixes your eyes by dumb luck? That's not how it's gonna work, trust me. The liquid versions help. I got the powdered version. Oh, the powder version, no, the powder version, you just add water to. That also works just fine. I have that. I used it for Phosphophyllite, from Lena Lustrous. Yeah, so you can do that. You can put that on your arms, and that works pretty well. Viking style cloth wash. Yeah. So, does anyone have any other questions about makeup? Any other questions about makeup? Anything at all? Anything at all? Sclera and corneas can heal, but scarring can happen. Yeah. Does having acne and such make makeup harder to put on? It can. You might have to double down with the concealer. And you might also just have to, you know, let it go kind of thing. Yeah. That can, I've seen people that have a lot more acne. It can definitely be a bit troublesome, but I would say getting a color corrector can help a bit too, not have it stand out so much, especially if you have a lot of red acne, like really red acne. In general though, I will say if you have cystic, however it's called, that kind of acne that's like really bad, I do not suggest putting makeup on that. It will make it worse. It is not going to help, even no matter how much you want to cosplay. Like, at that point, don't put it on and just have fun with your cosplay. And I would see a dermatologist and try to help, like, you know, get that figured out as best as you can. But if you have really bad acne like that, don't put a lot of makeup on it unless you're doing makeup very rarely. Again, if you're cosplaying like every single week or every single day or every single night or whatever, you can do it for like a convention once a year, but don't do it very often. Yeah, skincare before and after makeup, 100%. 100%. All right. If that is all that we have for makeup questions, we are going to move on now. Next up, we have where to get your cosplay. Okay, this is if you're going to buy it. And you do not always have to make your cosplay, okay? It is totally acceptable to buy your cosplay, leave it as is, you know, just make sure you always, like, iron your cosplay. Guys, iron your cosplay. You do not want a crinkly cosplay, or steam it. Use, like, one of those steam things. But, yeah. In general, like, yeah, you want to make sure that it looks pretty decent. And for the most part, I personally get my cosplays from Doki Doki Cosplay. They have different versions of cosplays as well, so they have different price points. Some of them they have like 2 to 3 different tiers of how much detail is in the cosplay. So there's a lot you can find on Doki Doki. Like, give it a shot. I personally have never used the wigs from Doki Doki, so that's why I didn't put them in the wig section, but I believe they also have wigs. So, actually, no, I lied. I did just get a wig from Doki Doki Cosplay, and it seems pretty good. So I could say the wigs from Doki Doki are also pretty decent. But I didn't think of it. handheld steamers are amazing. Yeah, that'll help a lot. And you can get them from Amazon. So for example, I would say anything that is from a shonen anime for the most part. So for example, Naruto cosplay, My Hero Academia cosplay, Bleach cosplay, anything where you know a lot of people are going to be ordering this cosplay to wear it, you can probably find it on Amazon. And it's not going to be too bad of a quality for the most part. I would say definitely look at the reviews. Definitely, you know, if it has only one person bought it, probably don't get that one. But like, you know, like Demon Slayer. I got my Demon Slayer cosplay from Amazon. Both of them, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, local in-person cosplay store is closed down a few years ago. Oh, yeah. Doki Doki, yeah, Doki Doki, I've also gotten some off of AliExpress, but I've recently moved to Doki Doki, and I've gotten a few cosplays. I've gotten 2 cosplays from there so far, and they've both been very, very nice. So I suggest them highly, personally. Yeah. I would use Amazon for more complex, simple stuff. In general, though, if you're looking for stuff that like is regular clothes, go to the thrift store. All right, for example, you want to cosplay Denji from Chainsaw Man, buy all that stuff at the thrift store. Do not go and buy a Denji cosplay. You don't need to buy a Denji cosplay. Just go to the thrift store, okay? Like, yeah. Also, when you are making your cosplays, which we'll get into, going to the thrift store can be a huge help. A huge help. I've heard some mixed things about AliExpress as a marketplace. Yeah, that's why I don't really use it anymore. But when I did use it, you know, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Is buying from a cheaper seller and edit them yourself advisable? I've done that before. I would say it's not really that bad of an idea. You can always, like, obviously rework the cosplays that you buy. Because sometimes they will, like, you know, people will cheap out on materials. So if you want to make your cosplay better, 100% go ahead and, like, put those parts in that you think would make it look better. But yeah, so those are, like, when you're buying cosplay. That is what I suggest. Now, oh wait, we need to talk about fabric first. I don't really have anything for fabric. We'll get to all that in a second. So, fabrics. Actually, wait, no. I'll talk about fabrics with my other part. We're gonna go into props next. We're gonna skip from fabrics. So this is just for bot cosplay, and we'll return to actually making outfits, okay? Making outfits is a whole other thing. For bot stuff that you're buying, lightly editing, these are the 3 places that would be in your best idea to take a look at, all right? Next, we have props. So props can be a lot to get into, okay? Props can be a lot to get into. So I'm gonna try to say this slowly and easily. I forgot to add the wood on here, but you can make cosplays out, or you can make props out of solid pieces of wood. I've done it before. Essentially, you just cut it into the shape, and then you sandpaper it, the edges, so you don't cut yourself. And you can make swords like that. It'll actually, it'll increase the strength of your props and make it less likely for them to break if you use one, like, one thing of, like, one plank of wood, and you just shape it properly. You'd be surprised what you can get away with. Can I use cardboard instead? Yes, you can use cardboard. I've personally used cardboard. I have used cardboard for a few things. So if you look up Fubuki from Kantai Collection, if you see, like, where she has that big boat on her back, like that big, like, everything, like her turret gun, her shoes, everything, I used cardboard for, like, most of that, because you can score it, and it's very easy to spray paint. So, yeah. Cardboard is good if you're not gonna, if it's a cosplay that you're not gonna, like, you know, hit around a bunch. I do not suggest using a sword for cosplay. I do not suggest using that. Styrofoam, by the way, styrofoam can be used in wigs, by the way. Styrofoam can be used in wigs. That's a whole nother part of wig styling. Again, this is really only supposed to be a beginner tutorial, so that's a lot more complicated, but styrofoam can be used to, like, make bigger parts in wigs. It's a long story. So, like, for example, if you were trying to cosplay Amora, I would say for her hair buns, you would want to start with a base of styrofoam and then attach the wefts, actually to that, and you would create it like that. It's a long story. What if I use actual metal? You can use actual metal, but they probably won't let you in a convention because most conventions have the rule of no live steel, which means you cannot use anything that is actually, like, more than, like, 10% metal, you know? If it's something that you could hit someone with and it would hurt, don't do it. But, like, obviously, like, if you have, like, screws in it or something, or like that, like, they're not gonna call that live steel, you know? But, like, yeah, if it's something that, like, if you hit someone with it, it could hurt, or like cut someone with, you shouldn't. Yeah, live steel is most of the time prohibited. One thing that you can use to make armor, a big thing that you can use to make armor, is actually going to be EVA foam. I am not talking about Warbler here because Warbler is more for advanced users. I would suggest using EVA foam. EVA foam is going to come in a lot of different, like, widths and such, and it's usually gonna be this dark gray color. But what you may be more familiar with as far as, like, what EVA foam is those gym mats that those little puzzle piece mats that they put on the floor in, like, children's play places. That is EVA foam, and you can use that too. But yeah, and the way that you are going to manipulate this EVA foam to do your bidding is going to be with a heat gun. And most EVA foam is going to be quite porous. So what you're actually going to do is you're going to leave it as it is on the ground or wherever on your table or whatever, flat, and then you're going to heat seal it. This will help a lot when you move on to the spray painting part of your props or your armor. And essentially, you will be able to tell when it is heat sealed. It will feel and look a lot different from the other side. It will be slightly shiny instead of matte. And it will not be as porous. You will be able to tell when it is heat sealed. And after it is heat sealed, that is when you can begin shaping it into whatever shape you need to do. You can cut that with X-Acto knives, little ones or big ones, depending on the width. And to make it easier to cut through, I suggest heating up your X-Acto knife with, like, personally, I've done it on the stove, but that's not really what you should do. You can use a very sharp one too. A very sharp X-Acto knife or a heated X-Acto knife will work. Other things that you can use to cut through things is going to be this little hand hacksaw. That's really important for wood. By the way, also use wood that is not super flimsy, obviously, but don't use wood that's, like, really hard to cut into because you'll never be able to shape it. You'll never be able to do anything with it. And a Dremel. A Dremel you can use on both EVA foam and on wood. And Dremels are so helpful. Dremels are so helpful. There's a lot of little tricks that you can use. In general, the general rule of prop making with cosplay, I would say, yeah, for prop making and armor, if it looks like it'll work, it probably will. Like, as far as the shape goes. For example, so you know how, like, there are, like, screws on you know, any sort of machinery? I've used googly eyes instead. And that works, you know? If it will work, it will work, okay? If you need a tube for something, use a paper towel roll. Like, it can be done. You just need to be creative. Creativity is the biggest and most important part of cosplay. And when it comes to that, onto the spray painting phase, you're gonna use a primer first, and then you're gonna use your spray paint. There are metallic spray paints, so for, like, swords and stuff. And then to seal that in, you're going to use Mod Podge here. And then when you are trying to connect anything together, I highly suggest using, and I've personally used this specific brand of contact cement. And contact cement, you can put two pieces of armor together, you can put two pieces of metal together, you can put two pieces of wood together, you can put anything together with contact cement. It's amazing. And I suggest it over hot glue because hot glue, one, If it gets too hot, your cosplay's gonna melt. And 2, it just is not super durable. If you put something together with contact cement and you let it fully cure, you're never getting those 2 pieces apart ever again. Trust me. Trust me. Once it dries, is it still toxic? I'd be hesitant holding certain parts of the prop after hearing that. I mean, in general, you're only going to be using this on seams, and you won't be holding where the seams are on your weapons or your armor, so you really don't have to worry too much. Yeah. Oh, another thing that I forgot to put on here. If you're trying to fill in, like, little gaps, it's called caulk. Caulk is, you use water to make it easier to, like, spread around. And caulk is really good for filling in gaps. That or wood putty. Wood putty is also pretty good. Does contact cement can be replaced with super glue? Super glue also really just doesn't hold very well. Contact cement is generally the thing that I found to work the best. And yeah, I've also used a thing called E6000, but E6000, it can eat through styrofoam. Trust me, I know it's happened. So, yeah. Does anyone have questions about prop and armor making? Now, mind you, I do not know much about armor making, unfortunately. I know a lot more about prop making. I know a lot more about prop making than I do armor making. But I have basics in armor because I have made the armor for Astolfo before. So I've made, like, the palindrons and everything else. I've made, like, chainmail. Do we need to use real steel? No, and I suggest not, because you probably won't be able to bring your cosplay to a convention if it has that, because it would be called live steel. And most conventions ban live steel. Because it's a weapon. Like an actual weapon. So yeah, don't. I made actual chainmail. Kind of. I just used, like, chains, and I made it look like chainmail. But yeah, essentially, because all chainmail is just linking stuff together. Even if it's for armor. No, armor, that can be actual metal. That can be actual metal. It's when it's like a sword or a spear or something like that. That's usually when live steel is banned. Yeah. Any other questions about prop making or, yeah. Again, at the end of the day, this is just to introduce you to the basics. This is so you know what to look up later, essentially. I'm not trying to help you on your way to, like, making your first cosplay. I mean, I am. This is so you know the names of what you're looking for and where to start. Because I can't tell you about all the different ways to use Mod Podge, but now you know that the thing that you need is Mod Podge. And what Mod Podge does, by the way, is it's a sealer. It's a sealant. It goes over paints and other stuff like that. What about armor with spikes and such? Spikes can be made using styrofoam with, like, wood putty over it, or you can you can make a cone shape out of very thin EVA foam, and yeah, or you can use air dry clay, like light clay. That can also work a lot of the time too. I've used air dry clay a few times. What do I have to wear under the armor to avoid heat strokes? I would suggest getting a cooling pad, like a cooling pad that you'd, like, use for a dog or on a bed, and then literally, like, sewing it into a shirt. That kind of thing. Yeah. That is what I would do, personally. So, moving on from props and such, give me just a moment because I have to, like, move my stuff and reset it up. So give me just a sec because this is going to take a bit more hands-on. This is going to be a bit more hands-on. Use party hats for spikes? Hey, if they're big spikes, that will work. That's the kind of stuff that you need to think about when you're making a cosplay, okay? You might think party hat, that's stupid, you know? No, it's not, because that could work very easily. That could work 100% depending on like, what you need it for. That 100% can work. I would suggest, making a styrofoam insert. So, you know, like, trying to put stuff in so the cone, like, will, you know, look correct and, like, it won't get crumpled too easily, but that can work 100%. All right, got my drawing tablet out. Is kind of sort of drawing time. Oops, that was a lot of loud noises. Yeah. Cosplay is all about ingenuity and figuring out how to make the weird, probably not actually realistic anime stuff come to life, you know? Yeah, you can use a party hat for a Bowser spike, 100%. That's what I was thinking of, actually, when they said that. Like, yeah, you can do that. You can do that, 100%. All right, now, moving on from that, we have my next segment, which is patterns, okay? So, when it comes to patterns, bada bing, bada boom. When it comes to patterns, these are the two basic patterns that you're going to need. And this is going to be a pattern for shirt and pattern for pant or short or whatever. Yeah, sewing. We're getting into sewing. So these are the basic patterns. And by the way, do not fret. The simplest thing that you can do to make a pattern is actually use clothes that you no longer use or from thrift stores and cut along the seams, because then you'll have a pattern and you'll know it fits you and how you want it to fit you. To make custom patterns that are going to be like skin tight or very specific, like where you want the seams to be, you can wrap yourself in clear wrap, cover that in duct tape, and then use a Sharpie to draw where the seams are and cut it out like that, and that can also give you a pattern. But yes, these are the two simplest patterns that you can use. These are the two simplest. I need to fix this because that is not at the correct width. There we go. Oops. Oops, 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 oops. I'm trying to type like in a weird way right now because my keyboard is off to the side. 0, enter. Okay, there we go. Fixed it. I also have like 9S's head in the way. Can you like move somewhere else, sir? Let me just put it right there. Okay. Yeah, so sewing can be complicated, which is why, you know, do not worry if you can't sew tomorrow, okay? Sewing takes a lot of skill. Sewing takes a lot of skill. And so, oh yeah, you can also use that patterning, by the way, for armor, as they were saying in the chat. Yeah, you can use that for armor, you can. But these are the basic patterns that you're going to use. And I'll kind of explain to you, like, how they work. So, zoom in. So, here we go. You ready? Are you ready, Freddy? Oops, I accidentally touched it again. No, go back. Enter. Okay, so, this right here, that part, is where your head goes. That is the hole for your head. Okay? That is the hole for your head. This part right here, on both sides, that is where your arms go. And this right here, that is the sides. That's where it meets in the middle on the sides of your body. And this is the bottom hem. Okay? So, this is one without sleeves, obviously. If you want something with a sleeve, the pattern is going to look like this. The pattern for a sleeve, like a short sleeve, this is a short sleeve, by the way. Or, see, the only thing you have to do to make it short versus long is just extend this. So that's a long sleeve, that's a short sleeve, you know? So this is going to be the part of the sleeve that, like, is where your arm is, but the part that actually connects to the shirt is actually going to look like, well, almost like that. It's going to look kind of like this, to varying degrees, because this right here, that is where your shoulder is. So that part is always going to be kind of raised. Because you're trying to make it so if this part is not raised like this, like if it was like this, one, it's going to be a lot harder to connect it, and two, you're going to notice that this part down here is not going to be straight, it's going to be raised a little bit. So it's going to look more like this at the bottom of your hem instead of being a straight hem because you did not include that part at the top. And yeah, again, if you just want to make it longer, just extend it, you know? And if you're trying to, I'm just gonna say this because probably a lot of people are gonna try to make these kinds of things. If you're trying to make kimono sleeves, can be complicated, first of all. And they also think with patterning, if it looks like that, like that's how it should work, that is how it should work, okay? So for example, quite literally, kimono sleeve go like that. Although, well, technically that's a lie. Technically, what you're actually going to want to do is you're going to want to cut it from here. You're not going to want to make this whole thing, because this is an all-around sleeve, okay? So essentially, you are going to be sewing these two sides together. These two sides get sewn together, and this part, it gets attached to this part. So how this would connect, I can show you. How this would connect is you have the lip up here. The lip goes up here, so it connects right there. And then there's the one side. So this is all the lip. The lip should fit all in there, right? And then it's going to kind of hang down like that. Yeah, look it up. Trust me. It's really hard to explain when you're not showing someone. But that lip, it's going to be half of it, okay? So this is the front of the shirt, okay? You need two parts to a shirt. This is the front. So essentially, this part, like, oh my god, this part that, nope, that's never gonna be, okay, whatever. That part that goes like that, you're actually only half of it is going to be visible on this side. So this point, this middle point is what's going to hit the shoulder up here, okay? And then this part right here, this part there, is what's going to attach to here. Does that make sense? That is how that would work. Yeah, just take apart a t-shirt and you'll see exactly how it looks. Now, with pant, on the other hand, so with pant is made in 4 pieces. It can be made in 2, but I suggest 4. And this is 1/4 of your waist, okay? This is the inside of your pant leg. This is the outside part that attaches to another part of the pant to make the front and the back. This is the hem at the bottom. And this part right here is your crotch seam. In order to measure a crotch seam, you're going to want to sit your happy little butt down in a chair, okay? And you're actually going to measure from wherever you want the top of the pant to hit. So if you have high-waisted, you measure from high waist, and you measure to the bottom of the chair. You measure to the bottom of the chair, and that is your crotch seam. That is how you know when you are sitting down. That is how you do it. And you can obviously add a bit more if you need like a bigger crotch seam or however. You know, guys might need to add quite a few more inches to accommodate for other such things being in there. But yeah, and sometimes, I'm gonna be dead honest with you guys, sometimes if you got a big booty, if you got a big booty, okay, you got a big booty and a skinny waist, it quite literally, your pant is going to look like this. Quite literally, your pant is going to look like that. Because you need to accommodate for your big booty, but then, like, especially if it's like slacks or something where the pants do not have to be billowed out, you accommodate for the butt. You accommodate for the butt. You do it. Sometimes you gotta. Sometimes you gotta. If it looks like it'll work sometimes. Yeah, quite literally. Quite literally. Also, what you can do is you can just make them bigger in general. So you can make this bigger, and then you can actually, so if your leg is actually only that big, right? Let's say your leg is only that big, and you need this part to come in more, right? So you need like a billowy effect. So it'll give it an effect like that. Let's say you need, oh, I'm in the way. let's say you need this effect on your pants, right? So you need it to be, like, squished around here, you know? Like, that's how you need your pant to be. Guess what? Guess what you do? Guess what you do? That's how you do it. Well, for the most part. What you do is you actually will accommodate instead. So, for the most part, okay. For the most part, the booty thing, the booty like this, that is if you want tight pants, okay? If you're trying to fit a bunch of different angles, pretty much, you just make this whole thing bigger. Just make it bigger. Make it bigger. If you're not trying to, like, emphasize specifically, you make it bigger, and then you put, stretchy, what is it called? I can't remember for the life of me. What's it called? Not spandex. It's... What the heck? I can't remember! Not nylon. No, it's a specific thing. Oh gosh. It's stretchy, okay? It's stretchy and it just comes in a little thing. It's usually white. It's oh no. No, not poly. It's not a fabric. It's not a fabric. If I get it, I'll remember it. Rubber band. Yeah, it's a rubber band. Elastic. I don't know why that. I could not remember that. But yes, elastic is what it's called. It's elastic. And what you'll do is you'll put elastic. So if your leg is this big, right? And your waist is like that big. You put elastic, you measure your waist as it is. You feed the elastic in, and then this will all scrunch up. It'll all scrunch up because the elastic won't be as big as this. It'll only be as big as whatever it needs to wrap around. And so it'll actually give you like that kind of effect. It'll bring it in for you. So that is what you could do to do that, you know, if you want more roomy pants, all right? So, yeah. Does anyone have any, like, questions in general about, like, these literally are, if you know these two basic patterns, you can make a lot of different stuff. You can make a lot of different stuff. You just need to slightly adjust it depending on what you're making. You know, like, for example, if you're like, oh, well, I have to make a V-neck shirt. Guess what? Boom, bam, V-neck shirt. That's all you do. You just cut it out like this instead. All right? The elastic be the same measure, or should the elastic be a bit longer? I would say make it like an inch or two bigger, because it will still stretch, but you definitely do not want it to be the same, it should not be the same length as your pant. It should be just a little bit slightly bigger than the size of like your waist or your ankle or wherever. What if I want a sleeveless shirt? That is sleeveless. This does not have any sleeves on it. That is what a sleeveless shirt looks like. Another important thing, when you have two pieces of fabric, I don't know how to explain this, but I'm gonna try my best. When you have two pieces of fabric, you are not just going to put this one on top of this one, like here, wait. I'll show you exactly what I mean, okay? Here's your two pieces of fabric, all right? You're not just gonna go like this and then sew it down this way. No, don't do that. What you are instead going to do is you're going to place them on top of each other, like so, and you're going to sew where they meet. Obviously, this is a shitty drawing, so they're not the same size, but they should theoretically be the same size, and you'll just sew down here, right? Then what you do is you turn it outwards like a book, okay? You know how a book, like how it is in the spine? That is what this will do, and what it will do is it will hide your seam, and it will make it so you just have a thing that looks like this, right? Instead of having something that you literally, like, is just two pieces of fabric, and it's like that. Like, with your stitching. You don't want that. For the raw edges of stuff, what you will usually do is you will actually fold this up 2 times, you'll fold the seam up 2 or 3 times. So like, literally, you'll roll it on itself, but not like a roll. You'll fold it. You will fold it like you're trying to make a paper fan almost, but only do it like 2 or 3 times, just until the raw edge of whatever it is cannot be seen anymore. And then you sew that. That can hide a raw edge. Another thing that can hide a raw edge is bias tape. And this is the bias tape that I use. And what bias tape is, essentially, is it is a thing that it is a fabric that looks like this, and it is folded down this edge. So basically, it looks like a name card that you would put up at a wedding. You know, like how you fold a piece of paper in half? That's essentially what this is. But it's fabric, and you can use that to also seal an edge and make it so the edges are not showing. Because dirty edges can be, you know, I mean, you know, if you're a beginner, this is how to make your beginner cosplay look good and easy. Bias tape is so simple. Can we just inside out after sewing it like that? Yeah, you can. You can. Inside out is what it is. You turn it inside out, and that's how it looks. Stretch. Yeah, bias tape is super duper helpful. You can also make it. If you get bias tape on your own, you can see how it's folded, and then you can make it out of whatever material you want. Speaking of materials, let's talk about materials. So, when you are making your patterns, a good thing to do is to use bed sheets from a thrift shop, or use broadcloth. Broadcloth is very cheap material that you can get, and it's usually like $1 or $2 for like a yard. And I always, if you're going to make it, pattern it out first. Make sure it fits on you, because do all of the hard work on fabric that does not mean anything to you and it's not the fabric that you're actually using. And fabric, I can't give you fabric suggestions. It really just depends on how you're trying to make your cosplay look. But in general, if you just want something simple, clean, and cheap, you can also use broadcloth to actually make whatever it is. Or you can just use bed sheets from a thrift store. Like the thrift store, you can find a lot of stuff. You can use a blanket, you can use anything. If it fits like what you're trying to do, like, yeah, use it. If it looks like it'll work, it probably will. That is kind of the rule of cosplay. Having spare tape at the convention, I would honestly say it would be more advisable to, have duct tape, super glue, or hot glue. Those are like the 3 things that'll save you. Also, like bobby pins, always carry bobby pins. Always carry a hand stitcher can also be very helpful. You can get electronic hand stitchers. But you know, just any simple thing where you can repair small stuff. Yeah. You very rarely, like, if you're behaving properly in your cosplay, like, you're not crazy running around, knocking down walls, being insane, you really won't have a lot of cosplay mishaps, if your cosplay is made well. Yeah. So, does anyone have questions about, like, fabric, making cosplay, that kind of stuff? I know there's a lot to it. And again, that's stuff that you just have to figure out on your own. I figured it all out on my own. Like, yeah. Oh yeah, for cosplay emergencies. Yeah, there are people like that. Tapes, glues, fabrics, Mod Podge, all of that. They're amazing. What would you say is a comfy fabric? Anything that's cotton can be really comfy. Also, wash your cosplays. Always make sure that the fabric that you're getting can be easily washed. Like, 100% do that. As daily clothes? I mean, yeah, if you want to, who cares? I don't even know what types of fabric exist. There's so many. There's so many types of fabrics. That's why I can't even go into types of fabrics. Just know that the main ones are going to be, like, 2-way stretch, 4-way stretch, vinyl, like cotton fabrics. Also, the easiest fabrics to dye. So if you're trying to get into dyeing like specific ombres or parts of the cosplay, I would go with stuff that's cotton or a synthetic material, because you can get cotton You can get cotton dye and you can get synthetic dye, but some just cannot be dyed. How do you clean your cosplays? Clean them by hand. Clean them by hand or take them to a dry cleaner. Yeah. I would say if you're going to be making your cosplays, always try to make your cosplays out of something that can be washed without much worry, because if your cosplay is made well and it can be washed in normal warm water, you can just kind of throw it in the washing machine. But I would suggest for the most part, you should hand wash your cosplay. You should hand wash your cosplay to make sure none of your buttons fall off or nothing gets snagged in the washer. Yeah. I know you're lazy, but I would say if you're that lazy and you don't want to wash it by hand, bring it to a dry cleaner. That's like the second best thing you could do. Is cosplay mostly DIY? Cosplay mostly DIY? Do you mean DIY? Is that what you meant? Because, I mean, yeah, most cosplay is DIY. Like, you're not gonna find a lot of people that'll do your cosplay for you unless you're gonna shell out a lot of money. How do you even clean foam armor or foam pieces? Ooh. Well, okay. If you've sealed it properly, and like, let's say like, I don't know, you're at lunch and you get like some hot sauce on your armor piece, you should just be able to lightly wipe it away with like a wet napkin. Like, you don't have to worry if it's properly sealed. As long as it's properly sealed, you shouldn't have to worry. In general, if like, it shouldn't even stain as long as it's properly sealed. It really shouldn't. It might if it's white, and in that case, you might just have to apply more spray paint. In that case, yeah. Any other questions about fabrics and sewing in general? Oh, one thing that I forgot to do, skirts. I forgot about skirts. I didn't even think about skirts. I don't really wear a lot of skirts. For skirts, there are like 3 main types of skirts, which are going to be circle skirts, box pleat skirts, and knife pleat skirts. So for circle skirts, what you're going to do, you look it up. There is a specific way to measure for circle skirts. There's a specific way to measure for circle skirts. But essentially, the skirt is going to come out looking, well, why do you think they call it a circle skirt? It literally comes out looking like this. It comes out looking like a big old boobie. That is how a circle skirt's going to look. Literally. This is, you know, where your waist goes, right in here. That's a circle skirt. Super easy. Yeah, circle skirts are the easiest to make. For knife pleat skirts, you're just going to start with your piece of fabric. And again, this is something you're going to want to look up for a reference of how to fold it. But you're just going to fold it so you get little pleats that look like this. Knife pleat skirts are schoolgirl skirts. So if you ever see like any of the basic Japanese sailor schoolgirl skirts, most of them are going to be knife pleat skirts. And box pleat skirts, basically, instead of having all those little ones, they're bigger ones with little things like right in here. Those are box pleat skirts. And those, again, have to be folded in a specific way. Those are things those are things you have to see someone do to really understand. I really can't tell you, unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much pre-made cosplay you can buy, you know? Like, really, at the end of the day, if it's the only cosplays that are gonna be hard to, like, buy are going to be ones that are really complicated, or if you're trying to go in a competition. You know, or if you want it in a very specific way, but you can get away with buying a lot of cosplay, especially if you go to Doki Doki Cosplay. There's a lot that you wouldn't expect. If you want to cosplay from Genshin, there's a lot of Genshin on there. There's a lot of stuff on Doki Doki, even simple stuff too. You know, if you just want something that's super clean, you know. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions about any of this? If not, we're gonna move on to the final part and then like just an all-around question thing. Do you think I'd look good with a short skirt or a long skirt? I like long skirts if I am going to wear one, so Ads for Doki Doki. Well, I really like that website. So if you're trying to get into cosplay, you don't want to go through all this work. Like, that's the easiest and like not crazy expensive way. Like, you can get a full Genshin cosplay, like an SR, which means it's the best, like the best quality they provide, for like $100 or so bucks, like 150 or less, genuinely. Yeah. Seen Call of Duty and similar cosplayers. Where does one get military gear like that? Probably on Amazon is what I'm going to guess. Or they just wear actual real gear, which probably you can get from like stuff for like hunting or like paintball websites, like armor for that, because some of it's like just straight up real. But Amazon usually pretty good for that. Last but not least, don't freak out, and God, I hope that YouTube doesn't ban me for this. I covered everything that, you know, could possibly be a problem. But you never know, and we're not gonna be little kids about this, okay? Yes, we're talking about booba plates. Alright? Here they are. Okay? For men and for women, they are called silicone chest plates or breastplates. For men, you can get ones that literally go all the way up to your neck, go all the way down to, you know, some I think even have stuff attached to them. Female ones, you can get female ones that are the same like the male ones, but I prefer these ones. And you can get them in a lot of different sizes. And yeah, those are going to accentuate your cosplay if you really want to go like in that. Otherwise, you can like, but most of the time, I would only suggest getting these types of things because they are very expensive. Very expensive. I suggest only getting these when you have a character that literally like if you're cosplaying as Grimjaw from Bleach, and you don't have that kind of body, if you care about looking like Grimjaw's body, get a silicone plate. If you are cosplaying as, you know, a character that is very skimpily clad as a woman, and you don't have actual tits, you know, get a silicone breastplate. These, unfortunately, can be really hard to match to your skin tone. So, you know, it can be difficult, really. These are really expensive. These are just if you really, really, really want to go all the way out. Otherwise, you can kind of just get away with, like, whatever. You know, it doesn't matter if you have small breasts or no breasts, and you want to cosplay a big-breasted character. It really does not matter. It really does not matter. Always curious about the costs involved. Oh my gosh, it can be several $100s. Like, especially if you're getting a full-body one like this. Oh my god, they can be so expensive, like ridiculously expensive, because they're all silicone. And by the way, you put on baby oil, you have to lube yourself up in order to get into these, or you're gonna get stuck, and you're not gonna like that. So yeah, and they can get very warm, so be prepared for that as well. It can get very sweaty. But yeah, you can get these, and those will be very helpful. But in general, you know, you can just stuff like a bra, get a bra that is like fits around like your chest, and you can just stuff that with socks or whatever you need, honestly. If like your character is big chested but like is wearing like a turtleneck or something, you can just stuff a bra. That kind of thing. You can also look into how to actually contour. We didn't talk about contouring in the makeup section because I don't really do a lot of contouring, but contouring can be very important to your makeup step. I suggest looking into that, especially if you're doing more masculine characters. You're gonna need it. You're gonna need it. For doing masculine characters, contouring it can be very important. And it can also help just in general, like, if you're, like, for noses and stuff, nose contouring can make your nose appear to look smaller and skinnier for that anime effect. And, you know, looking into that, because I really don't do contour very often, so I don't really know too much about it. But yeah, look into contouring, especially if you want to contour muscles, or if you want to contour breasts, or, like, cleavage, that kind of thing. Yeah. And yeah, you can eat lots of protein and build your own muscles. That also works. And, yeah. that is my entire presentation. I know it was a little bit scattered and I definitely forgot a few things. But that, for the most part, is all I have to say about where to start with cosplay. So, we're gonna go into here. And any other questions that anyone has about cosplay, please feel free to ask them now. Oh my gosh, I just unplugged my thing in it. It covered a lot while being concise. Again, I don't think I'm an amazing teacher, but I tried my best. I wanted to include all that I could think of that I didn't really know of when I started. You know, stuff that, like, most people would probably go, oh, hey, wow. Like, I didn't know I could do that. Or, oh, whoa, that works, that kind of thing. Where did I put that? Why put that down there? 1 second. I'm trying to get my mouse rest from the floor. I chucked it over there. Yeah, I saved you from trying out cornstarch. Don't do that. Any cosmetics that I tried and regretted buying? I guess certain, like, shades of lipstick or certain shades of foundation. Not really, like, not really any cosmetics that I regretted. Again, you can get away with quite a lot. So, not really. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody. For shirtless cosplay, is it reasonable to shave all of your hair? You don't have to. But, you know, if you want to be more accurate, do it, kind of thing. Accuracy is as you see it, you know. If that's not what you want, you can do anything you want, okay? You can wear female cosplay and not shave your pits, okay? You can do whatever you want. Like, cosplay is all about making the character your own. This is just my advice as someone that's seen a lot of cosplay, done a lot of cosplay. And these are just, I'm not trying to tell you how to cosplay. These are just the things that you might need if you're trying to cosplay like I am. And this is the level that I'm at. So that, I'm giving you my, you know, intermediate beginner advice. Or perhaps a masterclass, if you want to call it that. Oh, right! We need to do the Blaze cosplay section. Yes, let's do that as well after we take some questions. A matte black lipstick work for you? Sometimes it just doesn't. That you also have to accept. Sometimes certain shades just don't work on you. It doesn't work because of your skin tone, or it doesn't work because of the rest of the cosplay, or it could just be the lighting. So many things can go into it. It's actually kind of ridiculous. It was a lot of information, but what would you say is the average monetary cost of a cosplay? How much should someone set aside before giving it a shot? So, for a beginner cosplay, if you're buying all of it, I would say, it really depends. For example, if you're trying to cosplay Deku from My Hero Academia, if your cosplay is like over $50 to $75, you've spent too much, you know? And this is me saying that if you get, like, stuff from Amazon and you get all the tools. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Immortal. Arrived late, but I will enjoy the VOD. Thanks, Blaze. You're welcome. But yeah, like, no more really than 50. If you're completely making a cosplay from scratch, you could spend easily $1,000. You could spend a lot, depending on the materials that you're using and the fabric that you're getting. Trust me. I have a lot of questions, but most of the that you might answered. And the other question about your clothing, is your cloth metallic or fabric? And if it's mixed, which one is which? We'll get into that. We'll get into that in a second. Such a great stream. List of materials are great. Great. Oh, good. I hope I figure out the shade. Hopefully, yeah. Do you usually work on cosplays inside or outside? Are there any elements that you should work on outside or extremely well ventilated? Yes. So, thank you for the super chat, Techlist. Thank you. Lesson tax. Thank you for the lesson tax. Most cosplay can be done inside. If it is anything involving spray paint, I would say if you're working on props or armor, do it outside. You can style wigs inside, like, you know, you should probably have your fan on, like, when you're doing a bunch of hairspray and stuff. But for the most part, yeah, props, anything that involves, like, a glue or like a paint should be done outside, just for the best possible, you know. I'm guessing metal armored cosplays would cost more than one. Oh, yeah. If you're making something completely out of metal, that's gonna cost like 10 grand, bro. Like, and I also just really wouldn't suggest it because it's very impractical. It can be very heavy. You can make EVA foam armor or Warbler look very convincingly like armor, and it will be not as heavy, not as clunky, not as everything. And also, like, you know, if you use metal and it gets wet, it could rust, all sorts of stuff. Could just be really, yeah. Oh, wait, I just realized you have stream elements. Sorry. No, that's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Any other in general questions? Any other in general questions? Is it recommend to wear lots of deodorant? Yes. If you're going to a con, okay, shower every day, and wear deodorant, please. And possibly wear, like a cologne or perfume. You know, sometimes getting really into being the character can help. Like, if you think like perfume or whatever is stupid, like, think about it. Think about like, you know, if you get like a cologne for Grimjaw and it like smells like, I don't know, like super manly musk. Like, you're gonna have all the girls drooling over you, okay? Because you're gonna look like Grimjaw and you're gonna smell like Grimjaw, okay? Like, so sometimes it really helps, you know, if you're cosplaying a really cute, like, Love Live character, use something that's floral scented or vanilla, something like that. Because something you have to realize is, like, that can trick your brain into, like, really, like, you know, like, having a good time, and other people, because, like, scent is a very important part of, like, understanding who a person is. So tricking people with scent can sometimes just make some people, like, fangirl or fanboy over you even more, you know? The weight if it's distributed properly, but for the wallet part, yeah. Power from Chainsaw Man doesn't shower, why should I? Because, trust me, if you're stinky enough, in some conventions, they'll kick you out. If you are legitimately, if your BO is really bad. Like, okay. I went to an 18+ convention once, and let me just say, the smell of that place was the worst thing that I've ever smelt in my life. And I'm not even gonna lie. That is the worst smelling environment I've ever been in. The body odor was absolutely horrible. It was absolutely horrible. Yeah, on a hot day, oh boy. Yeah, no. More lewd cosplays? Well, yeah, it can, if it's a convention strictly for 18+, usually it'll have a lot of hentai and a lot of other stuff, so, yeah. More lewd cosplayers, no children running around, all that. It's, whoo, it's a ground. I saw a girl walking around with a sign that says, "I'll step on you for $10." I kind of, to this very day, I wonder how much she made out with at the end of that convention. Because I think she was cosplaying like Asuka in a bunny suit or something. Like, yeah. It was like, It can be intense. I've only been to one and I've never been back to one because it was like a really wild experience. So, yeah. If you had to make a mask, would you recommend using cardboard or EVA foam? It really depends on how, it really depends on what you think you can get away with. Cardboard can be easy. Cardboard, I say if you don't have a heat gun, if you do not have access to a heat gun and that sort of stuff, I would say go with cardboard and you can score it. What scoring cardboard is, by the way, is basically you do not poke through to the other side. You just lightly run an X-Acto knife and it can make like a flat piece of cardboard become like a tube. Yeah. Like, scoring cardboard can really help you make a lot of stuff. I've also made one of the swords from Nier Automata out of cardboard once. It was incredibly 2D, but I think it looked cool. I made it as a prop that I could hang on my wall because I didn't want something that was like super bulky and heavy, so I made that. And it was really cool. I used, also another technique that you can use to like add like blood stains to stuff or rust or certain shading is a technique called dry brushing. where you essentially just, you dip your paintbrush into the paint, and then you wipe most of it away, and then you just kind of like brush it on, and you can give that sort of impression of like light dirt or blood stains or rust or light shadows in certain areas. Dry brushing can be very impressive. You can also use fake blood too. I have a gallon of fake blood, like just sitting, because I use it when I cosplay Hide from Tokyo Ghoul, which is technically Kaneki, but like, you know, not remembering that he's Kaneki. So I've done that. So I've used fake blood for that. I've used fake blood just for Kaneki in general. I've used fake blood for Killua. I've used fake blood for quite a few characters. I like to cosplay characters that are gory, so yeah. I like to cosplay characters that invoke blood. Not so much gory as in like SFX gory, but yeah. Any other questions? Any other questions about like lots of cross-dressing? Oh yeah, I do a lot of cross-dressing. Admittedly, I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy it because if I'm being dead honest, I don't always really like the attention that you get in female cosplay at conventions. It can be uncomfortable sometimes. And so I prefer to cosplay men, because then I don't get anywhere near the attention. And a lot of the time, the attention that I do get when I cosplay men is a lot more respectful attention. How would I feel if someone cosplayed as me? As I said, like, I think that would be amazing. I'm really looking forward to that, hopefully maybe one day happening. And any kind of cosplay. I think it'd be really funny if some dude that was super buff, like, cosplayed me. That'd be so hilarious. I would enjoy that, like, 100%. I would, like, I would live for it. How often can they tell that you're cross-dressing? I think my voice gives it away. I mean, I think that, like, when at first glance, like, maybe they can't tell, but as soon as I start speaking, obviously, it becomes a lot more obvious that I am a woman. I'm really self-conscious about the idea of cosplay, but there's a part of me interested in crossplay. Hey, there is nothing to be ashamed of doing crossplay, either as a man or a woman cosplaying as the other gender or any gender. It really does not matter. Like, if you have fun, that is all that matters. And sometimes it is really enjoyable to just trick someone who thinks that, you know, you walk up and they're like, oh my god, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life, and you're like, hello. You know, that's pretty funny. I've gotten tricked a few times by that, and I was like, whoa, you're so pretty, and your tits are so fat. What? And they're like, gotcha. And I'm like, oh my god, that's really good. Your makeup is so good. Oh my god. Like, some people can really get you. Like, they're really good. Wore a skirt once and it felt good, not gonna lie. I mean, it's nice and airy, so I personally don't prefer skirts. I like long skirts. I like knee-length skirts. Skirts that are at my knees or longer are more preferable over skirts that are too short. I don't really like short skirts. I feel too vulnerable. If you want to crossplay, cons are probably one of the safest places to try. Oh, 100%. If you, like, you know, if you want to be someone else, the safest place to go is a cosplay convention or a convention that has cosplay, because everyone's gonna appreciate you there, because they're all doing the same thing for the most part. Like, why would you be afraid of cosplaying at a convention when there's hundreds of other people that are doing it that either look better or worse than you, you know? Like, just do it. Just get out of your comfort zone and do it. And you don't have to do it every single day. Just do it once. You don't even have to do it the entire day. Just get ready at your house, go, and if you want to take it all off in the bathroom, like halfway through the convention, do it, you know? Like, do whatever makes you feel comfortable, do whatever makes you feel happy, and do whatever makes you feel the best. And that's what the best thing about cosplay is that you can literally be anyone and be anything that you want to be. And, yeah. So just do it, you know? I wish to be hot enough to cosplay characters of both genders. Hey, if you get good enough at makeup, it'll be super easy, you know? And, like, you can also just do convincing stuff by augmenting the shape of your figure or just the way your demeanor, all sorts of stuff. Do you have to be in cosplay for a cosplay convention, or can you go look at all the epic costumes? No, you don't have to be in cosplay to go to convention. I would say most people do not cosplay to conventions, actually. It feels like there's a lot, but there really isn't. Most people do not actually cosplay, believe it or not. Most people do not. Would any cosplay automatically count as crossplay if I'm non-binary? I'm not really sure on the technicalities of that. I think it's however you want to consider it. Blaze cosplay tips, please. Right, yes. Let's get into about me. So, we'll start from the top. First and foremost, I would say this is a wig that would be very, very complicated. Very, 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 very complicated. I'm trying to put together a Link cosplay. Which one? Which one? Is it Breath of the Wild? Because I've legitimately made that. So, if it's Breath of the Wild, I, like, actually know how to make that one. Like, legitimately. I can tell you how I did that. And I cheaped out on that so much. If it's, like, a different Link, I haven't done any other ones yet, but... Well, no, technically, I've technically done a different Link, but it was just a Link in a maid dress, so doesn't really count. But this wig in general, I would first and foremost it would have to be a lace. Oh, Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess is really cool. Twilight Princess, yeah, I would suggest if you really want your Link cosplay to stand out and you want it to be special, I would suggest this is also just for cosplay in general. If you're making it and you like for like a competition or just to really look impressive, try to think about what fabric would the character actually be wearing. Good example, if you're cosplaying as a princess character, don't pick cheap fabric, pick stuff that's like laces and whatnot. Also, don't be afraid to add to cosplays, because you have to remember, in anime, they can't always animate all the little details. For example, like, I've seen a Cruel Teps cosplay that had, like, lacing all on the bodice, and that is not present in her normal design, but it made sense because she's literally the queen of the vampires. So, you know, feel free to add stuff. But, like, for example, like, for Link from Twilight Princess, like, I would say, like, those brown parts, like, those would definitely be leather. The green parts would probably be a thicker cotton, I would say. Like, those kinds of things. Always just think about what realistically the character would be looking, and that can also help a lot with, like, making it look more accurate, for example. But it doesn't always have to be that way. Again, you could just use broadcloth for everything. But that's just my personal suggestion, is just thinking about, like, again, what would realistically the character be wearing? And you can add to that, too, as well, if you think there would be something that makes more sense, or something that makes it more detailed, you know? No one will ever fault you for adding more details to your cosplay. Come on. Creasy bedhead Blaze. No, Blair's dead. Blaze hand cannon. Hair cannon. I'm tired. Can you tell? I'm getting a little eepy now. But, no, yeah. So, pretty much, I would say this would be a wig that you would have to cut in half, and you could go about it two ways. You could either quite literally shave the under part of your head and then dye it red, a dark red, or what you could do, actually, is you could try to make a, you could try to get a ponytail wig and just really slick it back so it looks like it's an undercut. But yeah, my hair is pretty complicated. I would almost just say just get a regular ponytail wig and don't worry about the undercut. I will not be offended if you don't, because it's literally really difficult to do. My hair is obviously also very complicated. I would say if you're not going to add in your own wefts, I would start with a white wig and then dye the red weft by weft, which will take a long time, but that's if you want to add in all of like the grays and white tones that I have. Can I use extensions? Yeah, you can work with that. Moving down, like, to like the Aegis, I would say that would be best made out of like, if you can't get it 3D printed, because 3D printing it would be the easiest option, I would say you should probably go for Gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. The air dry foam clay that I was mentioning earlier, air dry foam clay, and then sculpting it with your hands and stuff. And then obviously spray painting over it, putting all the little details, using metallic paint, etc., that kind of thing. I obviously, you know, with anime magic, my armor does move quite a lot, but it is armor, so I would go with either Warbler or some sort of EVA foam, probably, for that. Same thing with the palindrons, which are my little side, like, shoulder armors. For the fabric, I would say go with a... If you're trying to go fancy, go with the satin. Or something that can be dyed, because there is a bit of an ombre to my outfit. How do you make them stick? I would say to make them stick? Ooh, that's a hard one. I would honestly say maybe so back to the outfit. Yeah, you can do that. Oh, no, okay, I'll tell you what you can do. I thought about it for a second. What you can do is you get snaps. Okay, big thing for armor, you can attach a zipper to armor, okay? Armor can actually move a good little decent bit, depending on how many layers of spray paint you have on it. And you can attach, what are they called? I just said them. Oh my gosh, I'm geepy. Uh-oh. Snaps! There we go. They're metal. Yeah, snaps. Snaps. And what I would actually do is I would, let me, hold on. Let me add this in, because I don't actually have it in on this. Oh god, it's way too big, isn't it? Oh no, I have a big Timothy. Well, you get a big Timothy pointer instead of a little Timothy pointer. So like I would connect it right here. You would put a snap on the underside here, and then you would actually put a snap on like this part where it meets, and you would actually snap those together. So you would take it off so you could, you know, like clean the actual clothes, but you would snap it. That's how I would do it. I would create a snap. For the details that are here, so I would use EVA foam that you could probably snap into place over the red part. And again, still just mostly EVA foam. For the donuts, those are pretty easy to make. You can use real bandages for the bandages parts. For the donuts, I would say use like, you can honestly just like make a air dry clay again, air dry foam clay. Most of this is just gonna be air dry foam clay. You can use resin for the gem. Resin is really difficult though, so I would just say buy a little gem off Amazon that looks right. On your cleavage, I have no clue how I do the fabric. It seems like multiple layers. I suggest it to actually be armor. Again, it's anime magic that it jiggles, but I would say go with actual armor. So use EVA foam, and you can layer EVA foam. I would say use a medium thickness of EVA foam for the base, and then just use thinner EVA foam on top of it. What anime magic led to the sleeves being all foldy? That's not anime magic. That is, so you know how I was explaining, like, knife pleats earlier? That's just a pleat. And that just means it's folded over. Like, so basically that means the sleeve would probably be 2 times bigger than it actually looks like it is. And then you just fold it on itself, and you sew it to be the correct diameter of your arm. And yeah, you should get quite a few folds out of that, and that's called pleating. There's quite a few advanced sewing techniques that I didn't talk about because they are more complicated, but pleating is one of them. Pleating is one of them. There's a lot, but yeah. Cosplayers wish they had some of that anime magic. 100%, 100%. Again, more like just EVA foam all on the armor. That's how I would go about it. Same stuff for the other bangle. This, I would, again, just get a translucent cloth. For this, what I would probably do, for this part where it meets and it's clearly a cloth, is I would actually, you see where this shading is right here? Like right where that meets, right about like there, or you could even honestly do it up here. No, I'd say like right around here, somewhere around here. You'd have to figure out exactly how you want it to look. But from there, I would actually just like make it cloth. And what you actually can do is you can use EVA foam. You can use EVA foam and not like, you know, spray paint or anything. You can use it for stiffness. So you can use the EVA foam to use dimension, and then you can actually just like put fabric over that and sew it so it's like a casing. So then you just shove the EVA foam inside the casing that you made, and that will work. So that's something else that you could do for like a lot of these like things that look like they'd be more difficult, like especially right around here, is you just use EVA foam and then put fabric over it. And also, hi Mim! Thank you for raiding! Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. We're not really like too far away from the end, but you know, hello. My name is Blaze Shinryu from AN Project's 2nd Generation Haven. I was teaching my rubies about cosplay today. That is what I was doing. Welcome to my stream. I sincerely hope to see some of you guys again tomorrow. I currently stream every day, usually at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And yeah. It is about to be the this is the 3rd week since Haven's debut. So a lot of you here are gonna be here pretty early on, you know? Things are just getting started for us. But yes, hello Mim, thank you for the raid. Thank you so much. Hello. But yeah, we were just about to finish up about how you would cosplay me. And that just ends with my shoes, which I would just say get socks that are this long, and then like essentially you would just cut it around so you could wrap it like this, and then don't obviously cut it all the way off. And then the my J's are just they're just sandals. They're just sandals, you know. I'll bring up my actually, where is my reference sheet? Hold on. Let me bring up my reference sheet real quick. I don't know why I wasn't really using that this entire time, but, you know, it'd be like that sometimes. Here's my reference sheet. There it is. I'll go back down here. But yeah, it pretty much still applies for everything else that's here. But yeah, as you can see, they're just sandals. Pretty easy. You know, you can get that kind of thing at a thrift store, probably. I would say get some white sandals and then take the part off. Or, like, you could just use, like, leather dye or whatever you need to, like, make the black part. Or you could just use ribbon on it. That kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Yeah, fun cape, I know. As far as the makeup goes for me, pretty simple. You could either use temporary tattoo, or you could just like kind of like put powder on. For the eyelashes, you can get different colored eyelash stuff. But you'd probably want to get bottom lashes that you actually like, because you can get different colored lashes. I would say just get different colored lashes and try to like Frankenstein them together somehow. To cover your eyebrows, by the way, some people use glue. They glue them down and then put a bunch of like foundation and concealer on them. I personally kind of just, I cope and seethe. I just hope that the color will cover it. Yeah, I don't really care so much for eyebrows, really. Because a lot of the time, eyebrows are darker anyways than, like, what they're supposed to be. The only time but the other thing you can do is you can use like white mascara, because you can get white mascara, and you can run white mascara through your eyelashes, or not your eyelashes, well, you can do that on your eyelashes too, but on your eyebrows, and let that dry, and then you can apply the color, or you can just bleach your eyebrows and then apply the color. Those are all options that you can do. Yeah. Could Elmer's glue work as a swap for liquid latex? Maybe? I don't know. I do not know. I would say no. I would look that up because I'm not very well versed in liquid latex and all of that. Do I have fangs? I do. Wait, I do have bottom fangs. Hey, yo, remember when we were drawing and I said, I don't have bottom fangs? I do. I don't look at my own mouth enough, I guess. Oh well, I'll have to redraw some of those. I was almost done too. It's fine. But yeah. That is essentially, in a quick way, how you would cosplay me. Mostly just ingenuity. You know, ingenuity will get you pretty far. Yeah. Alright. Any more questions in general? This is our last time for questions. Ugh, because I'm getting pretty tired. I'm getting pretty tired. I feel decrepit. Thanks so much. You're welcome. I hope you guys learned some stuff, you know? I'd always like that to be the case. Where should we send our Blaze cosplays? I suppose you can just tag it under, tag it on Twitter under my general tag, here for you. I would say. We would do cosplaying and makeup. So this was helpful. I'm glad. Too broke for cosplays. Well, again, if you go to a thrift store, you can do simple ones like Denji, Power, Aki, Makima. You can do anyone from Chainsaw Man, really. You can do a lot of stuff. And you know, you never know what you could throw together just from stuff that you find in the thrift store too. You never know. You could probably put together an entire My Hero Academia cosplay just from stuff from the thrift store and like some ribbon that you sew on. You could probably do that. You could probably get a red tie. You could get dark green pants. You can get a blazer. You can get all that. You just gotta think outside the box. That's important for cosplay. Thank you, Savic Miracle. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Will I ever cosplay as my VTuber model at some point? I don't know. I feel like it would be too much work to do. I will say though, I do really want to make a video of actually making Timothy. So, not a stream, a video, so it'd be all edited and everything. But that's something in the hat. But I think that would be really cool to do. I'd like to make that because I like making props. I like making swords and spears and all of that. That's like one of my favorite things to do, really. So, yeah. How long would it usually take to finish your cosplay? Depends on the pace that you're going at. I personally, I've had cosplay take me like 6 months, easily. 6 months to a year sometimes. Depends on how complicated it is, genuinely. And I've also had cosplay that I've been able to get done in a weekend, you know, and have it look just fine. So, Unrelated, but could you give us a big smile before you go? Sure. There you go. Alright. We are going to end out today's stream. Thank you all for coming. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this little educational section. And we are going to go raid. We're going to go raid and be respectful of newbies elsewhere. We are going to go to... We're going to go to... Let's see... Sky is doing members only, so we cannot go there. But we have Mino Miyako from Kawa doing a 1 year of Genshin Impact celebration. I assume that means it's been 1 year that she's been playing. We have Petra, who is drawing. we have Rana and Ofi, who are playing the Coffin of Andy and Lele. We have Scarlet, who is playing World of Warcraft. We have Irie, who is playing she's doing an arcade date. And that is who we have to pick from. Anyone that you guys are specific to that you would like to go to. Coffin of Andy and Lele is enjoyable. Coffee of Andy and Lele is enjoyable, yes. Rana and Ofi. Ofi, Scarlet, beloved. All quality choices, hard to choose. Can we not just like choose and have 5 more minutes of Blaze? You get Blaze every day. Whoever has the fewest viewers, I'm not sure who does. Give me a second and I suppose I can go look. Let's see. It looks like it's going to be, Mieko, but I don't want to send you guys there if you don't want to watch Genshin. So, yeah, I mean, you know, Rana and Ofi, poll, I guess we could do a poll. We could do a poll. We'll do a quick little poll. Alright, let's see. Rana and Ofi, Mie. We already did Scarlet once, so I don't want to really go there again. As far as like a big corpo VTuber goes. So I'm just going to put Petra, and then now we have 4. Alright, there you go. The poll will determine it all. But yes, I suppose we could sit here for another 5 minutes and think. I didn't know a raid happened to Scarlet. Yeah, I raided Scarlet a bit ago. I think like during week 1. I try not to like stack up too much on people. I know I've raided Rana and Ofi a lot too, so dunno. I've technically raided all except for Irie and Petra. I haven't raided them before. Another super chat hostage situation? No. It's not happening again tonight. That's what's not happening. Polls are fancy. I just trust Blaze's choice. I mean, if you want to keep it like a chill stream, we could go to Petra because she's drawing and that's like kind of like chill, you know? So I wouldn't mind. I suppose we can go there if you guys really want to. But yeah. Blaze needs her sleep. Blaze likes sleep, so, you know. I really do. I think... No, I ate far earlier, though. But I haven't eaten yet. I haven't eaten dinner. Sleep stream when? No. I'll send a super chat if someone sends me $50,000. Drink water. Oh yeah, I got water. No worries there. Do I mind that you're using this face? No, it's okay. I put it out on the internet, so it was bound to be used eventually. Alright, let's take a look at the poll. So far, it looks like it's going to Rana and Ofi, who again are playing the Coffin of Andy and Lele. Blaze is EP. Blaze EP. Yeah, I unloaded a lot of information today, so my brain is like, it's all out. It's gone. Oh no, I'm yawning. I managed to hold it in this entire time. Ah, man. You appreciate the teaching? Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. If you want to leave any additional comments on my Maros, I can answer them another time. So if you, or comments or like questions, you can leave them in my Maro, and I'll take a look at those too. Yeah, free on. Alright, let's get headed over to Rana and Ophi. Let's get over there. Skedaddle, skadoodle. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Alright. I will see you guys there, and I of course will see you guys tomorrow as well. Thank you guys for coming to my little cosplay workshop. I'm glad that I was able, you know, to like teach you guys quite a few things, and you know, you guys had a lot of good questions, and you caught me in a few places where I might have forgotten some stuff. So yeah. Thank you. Thank you for participating in the discussion, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Good night.